Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you'll please be seated. We are ready to begin this evening's board meeting. Sergeant at Arms, is the lobby cleared? Thank you. At this time, we request all electronic devices be turned off or put in silent mode. Also, please refrain from using flash photography except a special presentation portion of the meeting. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the June 27, 2023 school board meeting. The time is 6:01 p.m. This meeting is called to order. We would like to take this opportunity to remind the members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student achieves his or her highest personal potential and the district's vision to be a world-class school system. Board member Chris Patrica may be participating and will vote by phone this evening pursuant to Board Policy 1.11. This evening's agenda includes the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, one item under information, public comment, consent action items, which include 2 items under board office, one of which is good cause. Mr. Dupe Bruno will please provide an explanation for this one item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening. Florida Statute 194.015 requires the school board to appoint a citizen member to serve on the County Value Adjustment Board. In preparation for the Value Adjustment Board organizational meeting, the county has requested that the school board confirm its citizen member appointment for the coming year. During the briefing today, the board made its selection, and this is why this item is coming good cause this evening.
As presiding officer, I find there is good cause to add this item to the agenda. There will also be 4 items under academic services, 13 items under business services, 4 items under human resources, 13 items under operations, 11 items under public hearings, and 4 items under good of the order or other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Okay, the motion was made by Ms. Langford Fleming and seconded by Ms. Jordan. Would you please vote? The motion carries 7-0. As is the custom of the board, I will lead us in an invocation, after which Ms. Morgan will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Joining us this evening is Pastor Blake Hanson of First Faith Assembly of North Fort Myers. Blake and his wife, Brittany, have been part of Faith Assembly since 2019, when they took a big step of faith, leaving Los Angeles with what only would fit in a moving pod and made the cross-country trek to Florida, pursuing God's call on their life of ministry. Pastor Blake became the lead pastor on March 5th, 2023. Blake has a heart for Southwest Florida and seeing lost people find Jesus and start a relationship with him. Blake graduated from Central Bible College in 2011. Blake and Brittany have been married since 2014 and have served in various roles in ministry in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Florida. They now have 3 beautiful children, Bodie, Briar, and Blakely. In their spare time, you can find them spending time on the ball field, playing outside, and trying to make it to the bench when they can. Family time is the best time. Welcome, Pastor Blake.
Absolutely. School board, thank you. Mr. Persons, thank you for this invitation. I'm going to ask you, if you're comfortable, if you'll pray with me, bow your heads. God, we give you this time right now, and we just pray for this meeting specifically. We pray for wisdom. We pray for guidance. We pray for our leaders, Lord. Lord, we pray for all the parties involved, from the students and them being the forefront of this meeting and the reason we gather. Lord, we pray for wisdom for our administrators, our school board, to make the proper policies and procedures. Lord, we pray for unity. Lord, we pray that even though there might be disagreement at times, we can come together, and we know we can gather because the central cause is to help our students better perform and better to participate. So Lord, we pray for unity this evening. Lord, though there might be challenges and there might be conflict, we pray for a peace that your Spirit can provide. Lord, we pray for just your ability to move here this evening and to lead each party involved. We give you this moment, we give you this this evening, and we be with. Please continue to be with our leaders and this evening's events and activities at tonight's school board meeting. In your great name, we all say,
Amen.
Amen.
Ms. Morgan?
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. The next item on our agenda is the community update. Dr. Bernier, would you please provide us?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the community, thank you very much for the opportunity. The hurricane update continues to look and examine the repairs that are underway. We have several things to report, and we do believe that in the course of this report, the pictures will speak 1,000 words. Once we get to the pictures. So before we get to the pictures, I can certainly start a verbal report. The demolition of Fort Myers Beach Elementary School and the outer buildings is now 50% complete. If you were to see the pictures of Fort Myers Beach Elementary School, there is always in the course of a demolition or a construction project where things begin to look worse before they look better. But we're excited about this big first initial step. The design for Fort Myers Beach Elementary School's renovation is now complete, so we have the necessary plans and other things to move forward. We'll be putting together a gross project estimate cost and be bringing that to the board for moving that forward as well. Invitation to bid for construction services for Fort Myers Beach Elementary School reservation was advertised last week, so we will be doing that work for Fort Myers Beach as well. The solicitation for Hector A. Caffaretta, the K-8 rebuild, is due July 14th, 2023. For members of the public, this is a unique opportunity to put the solicitation out, as it does look at a private-public partnership as an opportunity, though all of our local contractors are eligible to bid against the public-private proposal. Ongoing hurricane-related projects, including roofing, floor wall, drywall, painting, etc., are underway. Approximately 88% of all hurricane-related service requests submitted to our maintenance department are done. I share with you that I drive home every day past Dunbar Middle. It's nice to see those repair crews on the roof putting that roof back together. We don't think of Dunbar as being one of our most heavily impacted buildings, but it was. These pictures are pictures of the Fort Myers Beach Elementary School demolition. What you see are former buildings that have been torn down. Remember, we are not touching the historical building. The historic building will stay in place, and that's what the former bullet points where I talked about both the repairs and the process for renovation. Those plans and other things are now done, and we are bidding the project. Hurricane Ian repairs both before and after. This is an example at Fort Myers Technical College of what we've done post-hurricane to remove damaged flooring, fix walls, and then install new flooring. The next picture is at Diplomat Middle. This is a little tougher to see, but in all of our science rooms that were impacted by water, these are primarily on the second floor. As people will recall, Diplomat Middle lost its roof. We had soaked cabinets. All those cabinets had to be removed. And in the pictures on the right-hand side, you can see some of the same tables and chairs. However, all the cabinetry and sinks for these science labs have been replaced. Our next example is from Lexington Middle School. Lexington Middle School primarily was a flood-damaged building. You can see that we are making progress regarding all of the work on the first floor, carpets and tiles being laid, and you can see the difference between what we had post-storm. This, as many of you will recall as board members, you toured when these walls were still wide open, and we could see the aluminum studs, and there were actually individuals down with paper towel actually cleaning the individual studs and then spraying them and coating them so that they wouldn't continue to corrode and wouldn't grow mold. So only after that process was complete did we then close it up, and we have begun the drywall paint and flooring at Lexington Middle. Orangewood Elementary School seems like a little thing, but every little thing, we talked about incrementality in all of this process, every incremental step towards being fixed is a step towards being fixed. This is the Orangewood Elementary School walkway cover between two of its buildings. That's what was remaining post-storm, and that's what has now been installed and replaced. This is Paul Lawrence Dunbar Middle School, the roofing project. I remember flying over Dunbar and on the way back to the emergency operations centers to land, and I made the pilot circle back because I could not understand how one corner of a roof could be peeled back like that. Dunbar's just there. I would call it, I'm going to try to get my directions right in Fort Myers, I would call it its southwest corner had been exposed to the wind for so long, the wind got underneath it and peeled it back. But just to a certain extent. It almost looked like, for the handymen out there, that if you're out with a hammer, you could have just like put it back, tacked it back down, and everything would have been fine. That is not what has to happen when that happens to a school building. It's a pretty involved project, removing the damaged materials, getting down to the core of the roof, as you can see here, reinstalling the materials, and then again going back to ensuring that the roof has the correct materials on it. Again, this was a standing seam roof, which made it interesting that this one was impacted by that wind. It just had to do with the torrential direction of that wind for such a length of time. Gulf Middle School, working on the roofing there. This is a different type of roof where standing seams is not appropriate. It is a pan roof, so the work is continuing there in order to ensure that the Gulf Middle School's roofing is complete and that we can keep the water from intruding inside of the building. I believe finally one of the last pictures is of one of the most extensive pieces of damage. This is also back at Lexington Middle. This is the shared use gymnasium between the county rec center and our school building. Normally during the school day, that large divided door on the left-hand side is closed. This is a secure area for the middle school then to have PE and other classes in there, and it can be opened for, as you see on the picture to the right, all the subflooring is now in. The wood for the gym floor is currently in the facility, and if those of any of us who have laid a wood floor, you know you have to give the wood time to acclimatize, adjust to the moisture and humidity in the room, and then the process can begin for the hardwood to go down. So we look forward to updating you more. These are just a sample of the pictures that are going on and of the work going on in our school buildings. We could be here all night showing before and afters. We will continue to use different examples as we move forward and continue to keep our community updated. We had a great meeting with Imperium the other day. It was actually yesterday. We are moving forward. All of our projects for A and B, if you've been reading in the news, there is a deadline of June 29th for all of the A and B. A was debris removal, and B was all of the emergency preparedness responses. All of those claims have to be filed by that date. All of our claims have long since been filed, and we've actually, as you will recall, received partial payment. We are still working towards a better understanding of when the federal government will move to the 90-10 rule, meaning they will replace 90% of and only leave us with the 10% remaining for us to cover. That is a pretty standard process. It should happen within the next couple of months as the claims continue to rise. And I would refer to the community just to be thankful for not only our local delegation, but for the governor's signature on the budget. They have allocated a significant hundreds of millions of dollars for those districts like Lee County that have been impacted. So that 10% gap, we will have the opportunity to apply directly to FDEM, the Florida Department of Emergency Management, and we'll be able to receive those gap dollars back from the state of Florida. So thank you to our local delegation, the board members who helped lobby, our lobbyists, and the governor for signing that budget. So that's our update on hurricane repairs and where we are as of this moment.
Thank you, Dr. Paneer. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Attorney DePay Bruno, would you please address this?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. Please complete a public comment card and put it in the basket provided. If you need a public comment card, they are provided by our staff. The rules concerning public comment are posted in the back and will be made from the podium in the front center aisle. Please be advised that the board will not respond during public comment to remarks made by speakers. Concerns will be addressed by the superintendent or his staff as necessary, and the chair may comment as deemed appropriate, or the superintendent may comment at the conclusion of public comment. The purpose of public comment is to provide feedback on district issues such as duties, responsibilities, decisions, and the general operation of the district. The school board is viewpoint neutral during public comment. We ask that decorum be kept and respect be shown, which is what is expected when a government agency conducts official business. Therefore, abusive language such as cursing, insults, derogatory language levied against an individual or a class of people are prohibited. Further, personal attacks such as name-calling are prohibited. In addition, clapping, hissing, and booing, or a display of temper during public comment is prohibited. Speakers who fail to follow proper decorum in the chambers will be ruled out of order by the board chair or the parliamentarian. Any speaker continuing with such remarks will be required to relinquish the microphone per Board Policy 1.11 and may be removed from the chambers by the Sergeant at Arms. Per Board Policy 1.11, the time per speaker is 3 minutes if there are 20, 2 minutes if there are 30, 1 minute if there are 31 speakers or more. The maximum time allotted for public comment is 1 hour, 60 speakers. You will find a countdown on the big screens in the front of the room. Once your time has elapsed, the microphone will automatically shut off. Please state your name when you approach the microphone. I will call your names 5 speakers at a time. Please follow staff's direction when lining up. Mr. Chairman, there are 16 individuals that would like to address the board this evening, 3 minutes per speaker.
Thank you. Please make sure you have completed a public comment card if you intend to provide public comment. The card is our public record identifying those who speak and providing contact information for staff to follow up. The cards are located with the staff in the hallway. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board but did not fill out a comment card? Okay. Looks like we have 2. We could get them a card. Okay. All right. Would you please proceed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will the following individuals please line up? Madeline Stewart, Joe Phillips, Jesse Phillips, Michelle Pescatrice, Joe M. Stone. And if you could please, ma'am, if you could please sit in the back, because the line starts in the back. We don't want to have anybody directly behind the speaker. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. May I ask that my purple colleagues just stand for one moment so they can be acknowledged?
Granted.
Thank you so much. Good evening again. First, I want to thank all of you who have helped me and my colleagues in the Purple Group understand the nuances and complexities of defining policy and procedures for the school district of Lee. The work each of you does is central to our district's future success. So thank you very much for your input to us so that we could understand how things work. But I've been thinking about our district's tagline, and personal, passionate, and progressive. And I was so interested to learn that it came about through work with the entire community. It represents a thoughtful approach to quality education and to what a public school can hope to be. Personal, because ultimately all learning is personal. The teacher's personal knowledge and understanding of the student's growth in knowledge and the world and their own growth as a person. Passionate, because what we care about most and are most committed to motivates us to learn and to grow. And progressive, because progress means developing new knowledge, moving forward with a commitment to a better world, which is really the goal of education. We have learned so much from you, and I hope you have learned from us that we are committed to supporting the professionals in the district to make the best decisions for all of the children in Lee County. Thank you so much.
I am Smoking Joe. Mark Twain wrote, "In the beginning, God made idiots. This was for practice. Then God created school boards." When the discussion first began to elect a superintendent versus appointing one, I boldly stated this would be a huge mistake for Lee County. Politicians in Lee County are not elected. They're either appointed or paid for. And I have beyond proved this, pointing out the fix where your current 3 new members were positioned on the board by a political strategist. I even told you exactly who your chair and your vice chair would be days before the vote ever came up. Several key points that are already being set in motion. The public needs to understand what is about to happen. Currently, the superintendent is supposed to be directed by the school board. Even though we have witnessed, at least the chair has already willingly surrendered his direction to the superintendent, the elected superintendent will not answer to the board nor be under their direction. He will answer to himself and the voters. And we all know how they expedite to answer our questions, if they answer at all. Dr. Bernier is moving to put forth substantial pay increases. Those who will receive them have nothing but praise. He is really looking out for his people. Don't get excited yet. Teachers, bus drivers, maintenance, transportation, support staff, this doesn't apply to you. Theodore Roosevelt said, "A man who has never gone to school may steal from a freight train, but a man who has a university education will steal the entire railroad." We are all aware that Dr. Bernier has decided to run, even though when I told several people that after the election, they argued he would not, because he would not take a substantial loss in pay. Even though Dr. Bernier was revered chair for the DEI committee at his former employee at his previous job, I still agree he's a very intelligent man, and he proves it by increasing the salaries of directors and executive level positions, which start at the minimum of $130,600 and the maximum of $205,000 annually. Whatever increases these salaries go, he has to earn more than his employees, but I'm sure that never crossed his mind. Kind of sticks in the back of your throat like a hair in your biscuit, don't it there, Armour? I don't think you are as bad as some people say, but it seems you're much worse. Now, I know you're fixing to bring up a thing where only one of you can talk to the people. That is a Terry Miller plant for more control. If you only allow one of these members to speak, I promise you I will be here every meeting you have. Thank you. I'm Smoking Joe.
Hi, I'm Miss Smoking Joe. My children, husband, and myself are products of Lee County school system. I am one of the few privileged to receive a Beach Elementary education the experience was incredible. Today I am here on behalf of 4 Bonita High School employees who brought serious allegations of unfair treatment during their employment at the district. The superintendent assured these women and my husband at the last action meeting someone would reach out to these one. No one has. We had a parent who we have spoke about in district's failure to properly implement their child's 504 plan. After sending emails, phone calls, and text messages, this week finally someone called the mother to acknowledge their child's situation was being looked into, only after my husband having to inform the superintendent that our attorney would be the next person asking why they failed a child and took government funds for services unprovided. The district broke the law by having meetings about the student without informing the parent. Several sources inside the district have informed our staff this is going on all across the district, even going as far as saying the entire ESE program in the district is FUBAR. This is your staff's comment, not ours. Everyone from our staff family would like to express our sympathy to the families of the 5 recent graduates that the community lost. You are in our prayers. I will end by saying we are speaking up while you're covering up. There's no I in team, but there is a you, and y'all suck.
Good evening. My name's Jo Stone, and I'm a full-time resident of Bonita Springs. The presumption of innocence until proven guilty is a fundamental concept in the United States and is supported by the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. In other words, individuals charged with a crime are considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Flagging books for a potential book ban essentially locks it away prior to a policy review to determine if that book passes the Miller test. While those who want to flag a book may see it as a means to protect children from potentially harmful or objectionable material, the book deserves a fair trial. When books are flagged before a policy review, there are several potential consequences. First, it limits educational opportunities until the book is reviewed and could affect the ability of students to explore different subjects, cultures, or even historical events written from a different viewpoint. Second, according to the National Council of Teachers of English in their 2018 position statement on flagging books, it can reduce complex literary themes to a few isolated features, as well as limit students' access to a range of relevant and quality literature. The Council encourages reading and reviewing the entire book as a whole, instead of just pointing out sentences or keywords. Finally, by flagging books, it may just make students even more curious about them. If the book is flagged and found acceptable after a challenge review, students may line up to read it as soon as it's put back into circulation. After all, the concept of flagging implies that a book has been marked dangerous, either real or imagined. Once a challenged book has gone through the rigorous and time-consuming review process and is deemed appropriate, please put it back on the shelf. Flagging is unnecessary. I'm confident that you will do what's best for the students of Lee County. Thank you.
Will the following individuals please line up? Kathy James, Bobby DeLisandro, Mara Virtuous, Dr. Paula Porter, Sharon McGill.
Good evening. Dr. Bernier, members of the school board. My name is Michelle Pescatris, and I'm a retired principal from Lee County, and currently am the executive director of LCEAA, the organization that represents administrators here in the district. I come before you to present a concern from our building level administrators. It has come to their attention that a proposal to raise the salary schedule for upper level administrators, including executive directors and chiefs, is on the agenda for this evening's meeting. This new schedule opens the opportunity for executive directors currently earning the top pay of $131,879 to move up to a new high of $170,000, while a chief currently earning the top pay of $175,838 to move up to a new high of possibly $200,000. These pay raises would be approximately a 28.9% pay raise for chiefs and a possible 13.7 to 19.7% hike for executive directors. I believe it is of note that most of these people holding these positions were just moved to the top salary in their pay range during the 2021-22 school year. The reason given behind this change has been that we need to attract quality people from out of the district for new positions at the district level, and the current salary schedule isn't adequate. Lee County Schools has always prided itself on growing our own. Yet it appears that we are now looking outside the county for those very qualified people rather than the ranks of our very own qualified and knowledgeable administrators. It's important to note that in the last 2 school years, building level administrators faced many new challenges, including COVID and, of course, Hurricane Ian. Many of them had severe damage to their homes and or lost their homes completely, yet came to work each and every day to guide their schools with compassion, love, and strong leadership. Despite these conditions, these very same people received no pay raise during the years 2021-22 or 2022-23. I do not believe it is necessary to say that they are currently feeling undervalued and disrespected. I don't believe it will surprise you when I point out that we have lost 32 administrators in the past 6 months, 10 of them being principals. As you discuss this proposal, please take into consideration how this may affect these diligent, caring building level administrators who literally are the leaders who are moving this district positively into the next school year. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Dr. Bernier, both school board members, and Attorney Bruno. Well, here we are again. It's been a long summer. I've been back before you many times with the same message, and I do appreciate your respectful attention. We in the Purple Group are very resilient, and we represent many local residents who strongly believe in the Lee County schools and having the best for our students, families, and teachers. We strongly support the process which is being developed by your staff to make the challenge process which will accompany your policy decision fair and equitable to all sides, both sides of the issue. So I'm very proud of that, not just our opinion, but everybody's. We strongly believe in parental rights and strongly believe your staff are developing one of the greatest and best challenge process in the state, and we've read just about every one of them. Please stay strong in your support of an equitable process. I have previously flagged in the past the idea that some books would remain flagged even after going through a process, which one of our early speakers talked about. Once you've been through the process, it is right that that book go back on the shelf unflagged. Thank you for your fair and equitable decision in the process going forward. I know you'll make the best decision for our children. Thank you very much.
Good evening, school board members, superintendent, and members of the public. Although I'm wearing my purple, the reason I'm speaking to you tonight is about the proposed administrative pay raises. My name is Mara Vertrees, and I'm a retired teacher and principal here in Lee County. The concern about the pay raises is it's called administrative, but it only provides this reward to some administrators. The package includes raises of up to $24,000 to $39,000 per year for some district personnel and provides nothing for school-based administrators. For the people who directly touch the lives of our children, our parents, and our teachers every day. These people are right now creating schedules, managing their school budgets, hiring personnel, and desperately trying to figure out how they're going to cover classes in a teacher shortage. This pay package sends a message to them, and it is a message that is hurtful and insulting. I am not against fair pay for the people at this building. Many of them I have worked with. I love some of them. I respect them, and I honor the work they do. But is it fair for someone to get a 29.8% raise where someone gets nothing? Are those people not also valued? Are they also not working? So what I want to say is I'm retired now. I'm a voter, though, and I'm a taxpayer, and I have been for over 40 years. I don't think this is the best way to spend my tax dollars when it comes to compensation. I just want to ask 2 questions of the school board members. First of all, does this seem fair to you? And secondly, does it reflect the value you place in our school-based administrators? Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Kathy James, and this is my first school board meeting. It probably won't be my last, but we got to start somewhere. I'd like to thank Dr. Beignet for moving away from the flag so you didn't block the flag when we said our Pledge of Allegiance. That's very important. And I know you all have a very difficult job ahead of you determining the policy and procedures for this book ban. The only thing I would ask you to do before you're making any important decisions is review what happened in Germany in the 1930s. When you're looking at a book and you're looking at a child's ability to study the world, study his environment, study his community, we have a very diverse community here, and I think all of their needs need to be addressed. Every child who goes to our school districts deserves the opportunity to learn no matter what their interest is. Don't get me wrong, I don't think you ought to put Linda Lovelace in the schools, but you know, some of the books that I've heard being questioned, providing for children at appropriate ages. You know, if a child can read the words that are in the book, that should say that's an appropriate age book for that child. And that's what I think our parents and our teachers are there for, is to guide that child and maybe explain to them what they're reading if they have any questions. Because sometimes kids just don't understand the whole thing, and you know, if you encourage the child to ask questions about what they're reading, I think it would help everybody. And I don't envy you your jobs. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Paula Porter, and I'm here to talk a little bit about reading entire books. At the school board meeting on July 13th, there was some discussion about why an entire book under consideration for removal from the school library or classroom should be read. I offer this analogy. I'm a teacher. I like to give a lot of analogies. Would you only kick the tires of a car to determine if you should buy it or not? We wouldn't. So why read a page or a chapter and expect to know the content of an entire book? The rationale behind reading an entire book before requesting to ban it for school children is rooted in American principles of intellectual freedom, critical thinking, and reasonable decision-making. At the very least, with books being reviewed for elementary school children, an adult should be able to read most books within half an hour. For longer chapter books used in upper elementary, a typical book can be read by an adult in a few hours at most. Spending a few hours to review a book is not asking too much to consider the literary value and to protect our students. Without reading the complete book, it's difficult to form a fair and informed judgment of age-appropriate suitability for children. By engaging with the text, we can better evaluate the author's intent. Reading the entire book allows for comprehensive understanding of the context, themes, and messages conveyed by the author. In addition, reading the entire book enables an assessment of its literary value per the Miller test as a guiding aspect of determining suitability. Removing a book without considering its literary value not only goes against the policy of the Miller test, but could deprive learners of valuable literary experiences. When a book is read in its entirety, we're promoting critical thinking skills. It's also necessary for those assigned to review books in the school the ability to assess age appropriateness in terms of language, content, and themes. This will, without a doubt, ensure books selected for children align with their developmental ages, promote positive values, and provide appropriate knowledge and depth of understanding without being overly explicit or harmful. Requesting removal without reading the entire book risks censorship and limits intellectual freedom. Taking books away from an audience of readers without a thorough evaluation deprives students of the opportunity to explore diverse ideas, engage with different perspectives. By engaging a thorough evaluation process, we uphold the principles of intellectual freedom, responsibly protect students, and promote a rich and diverse reading opportunity. Thank you.
Will the following individual line up, please? Robert Daniels, Jacqueline Perez, Jerry Ware, Robert Roper, Gwen Gittins. Thank you.
Sharon McGill. Good evening, everyone. I would just like to address the Zubeen bean stack issue. I didn't have a chance to really get into it and watch the presentation, but it's obvious that an outside company is going to come in and try to help the district adhere to and facilitate the new statutes regarding access to book lists. But what I didn't see in there is how the district personnel are going to have to be involved in that and included in that, and how much time is it going to take away from their regularly scheduled responsibilities, since there are not media specialists at each individual school, and we're talking thousands of books. So I was just a little concerned that I didn't see anything that addressed that in the presentation. And I just wanted to follow up on that. And then the other thing is, I would respectfully request some kind of an update on the outcomes of the legislative priorities that the district took to Tallahassee this past session. And what were the outcomes and what happened with all those priorities that were taken to Tallahassee? Thank you.
My name is Robert Daniels. I'd like to start by recognizing the incredible amount of community interest in what books are available for our students to read. I only wish that there was as much interest in the community in ensuring that our students had a teacher in each classroom to help them gain the ability to read those books, so we could then fight over what they were going to learn from books. And our recent reading scores show that that's on a decline. I thought I was done talking about teacher retainment, teacher salary. Well, comments were made by a board member the last time I was here that indicated they still didn't understand that the decision to become a teacher was an economic one. And it used to be that we were offered a trade-off: job security, tenure, a position of respect in the community, and a rather decent wage, if I say so myself, for the time, in return for the public service of being a teacher. I have in the past gone to detail about how for the last 40 years, going up to 2010, Adjusted for inflation, that salary was right around $70,000 on average for teachers in Florida. I started teaching in 2011. Ever since I started teaching, not only has tenure been off the table, but the salaries adjusted for inflation have gone down to the equivalent that I'm now making $52,000 and the average teacher is making $53,000. So somewhere there needs to be raises going in there, because as we've acknowledged for the administrative side of things, salaries draw talent. And we want talent in our classrooms, not just warm bodies that are going to avoid us from getting sued. And I've already gone through and explained what happened in Hawaii, where you have hundreds of students being held in cafeterias, libraries, everything else. The very first time I came up here and spoke, I talked about this. And here we are with a 29% turnover rate that's only going to get higher, 400 open positions that are still going up, and it's not that hard to look at why. I want you to, if you're wondering why you're not seeing new teachers, put yourself in the position of an 18-year-old. You just graduated high school. You're signing up to drag yourself through 4 more years of school. You might go $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in debt to get that degree, 4 or 5 years of your life to get a bachelor's degree. Would you choose, without tenure, to take a position where you are going to make 33% under the market average for somebody with your degree, when you could instead go and do something else? I have 2 brothers, both of whom have a bachelor's degree, the same as I do. They both consider me to be the smart one, even though I chose to be a teacher, knowing that I was going to take a lower salary, just not as low as I found out it was going to turn out to be after 10 years in the pool. One of them makes $150,000 and works 4 days a week as an investment broker. The other one makes $350,000 getting flown out.
My name is Robert Roper. Today I'll be making a series of statements to set the record straight. Each statement will reveal if the statement was true or false. Number 1, my first book challenge was a complete disaster. I took another organization's list. I refused to fill out any forms. I did not follow the procedures, and I put the district in a bad spot. That statement is true. When Ms. McGill pointed that out, my error, I immediately made corrections, filled out all the individual forms for each book, and profoundly apologized to the district and in public. Number 2, this movement is all about me. False. I work alongside a group of very concerned citizens that would like to see children protected from potentially harmful material. I am not, and have never acted alone. I am not, nor have I ever been the group's leader, but I do put my name on the forms to protect the book readers from the treatment that I receive. Number 3, I do not have any children currently attending the Lee County Public Schools. That one is true. However, we have moms and grandmoms of children that attend Lee County schools within our citizens group. Number 4, we have filed challenges to books that are about dragons and wizards. That one's false. We've never, ever listed any of those. I don't know anybody that actually has in the form of a book challenge. Number 5, one of the things that we've done is called a nuisance challenge, and we regularly challenge classics of education. That one's false. Our group has never, ever, even one time hinted about any classic literature or making any nuisance challenges, not once. Number 6, all of our book challenges call for the book to be banned. Well, that one's false. On the form where it says what to do about the book, we never one time asked for a book to be banned, not once. In fact, every instance we asked for it to be retained. Just provide parental advisory. Number 7, our goal is to regulate every book that we do not like into the dark section of the library that is inaccessible to students. That is false. All we ask is to leave the parent in the position, in the driver's seat. Is that so evil? Because I'm a pastor, I endeavor to invoke my religious beliefs into the process. That's false. While my faith is very much a part of who I am, I've gone out of my way to advocate for fair resolution to all parents and all students. We don't have anything in common with those that oppose our efforts. That's false. You would be amazed at the amount of things that we have in common. Our primary area that we part company is parental rights over teachers calling the shots. Thank you.
Will the following individuals please line up? Lou Navarro, Tara Jenner, Sergio Cruz.
Good evening. While some of you enjoy your new celebrity status and like to go on radio shows to exaggerate your accomplishments, you've forgotten that many of us know the truth. You have an agenda that was cleverly disguised without a clear reference to cost and to who may be the receiver. You are approving a pay raise to all executive directors and chiefs. This pay raise does not apply to principals, assistant principals, teachers, bus drivers, or any support staff. I am above appalled for the employees of the Lee County School District. You presently have 500 openings for teachers and 555 openings for other non-instructional positions. Please, I'm begging you to consider these employees who are struggling to pay their bills. Please consider these employees before you vote for this increase for chiefs and executive directors. As for your proximity plan, I believe you need to consider revamping it again, as I have 3 complaints of children in elementary schools being sent to schools that are not close to their homes. For example, I have 1 child in San Carlos Park who is being sent all the way to Bonita Springs Elementary, and the parents did not request that. I have another complaint of the amount of violence in District 5 in the middle schools. There are countless videos on the internet being posted on social media, which I'm sure is just a drop in the bucket to what is actually happening. I'm advocating right now on the behalf of a child who was beaten ruthlessly, and I have the video and the pictures to prove that. And this was posted on social media pages. There was not one place on this child's body that didn't have a black and blue or a welt. The parent complained several times, and even that day before the child was beaten and bullied. She was offered no protection, and as a matter of fact, the parent was lied to about what happened to the aggressor, the child that attacked her. The violence involving children in District 5 has to stop. This environment is not conducive nor safe for the children nor the staff. So take a break from the photo ops and pay attention to District 5. For the love of God, take care of your children.
Good evening, Chairperson Borsett, school board members, Dr. Paneer. I am Jerry Ware. I am advocating this evening on behalf of the residents of Whitehead Creek. They reside in the property that is adjacent to Franklin Park campus. Unfortunately or fortunately, when Franklin Park moved into that area, that reduced the capacity for the soccer field. Now, I'm told that they have spoken with Representative Jordan and Giovanelli. I'm not sure if that's true or not. However, they said that nothing has been done. The parking is atrocious. It does not allow them to get in and out of to their homes on a Saturday and a Sunday. I will be speaking with Chief Papatone and Councilwoman Teresa Watkins Brown to see what we can do to alleviate the situation out there. Unfortunately, it reduced the amount of parking for the soccer activities. Please make sure that something is done about it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Purple people, red is close to purple on the scale, so. And to everyone else that's concerned about the books. I'm actually in a unique position. I have often talked about communication being like a Venn diagram. Excuse me. The way I see it, the way you see it, and the compromise is in the middle. I have seen communication outward from your vantage point, looking out at everyone that sits out here, and from your perspective. And I've also experienced communication from this side of the dais. One thing that remains constant for me is that that transparency and sharing of information is extremely important to both sides. Just because you know something doesn't mean that we know it or that we understand it, and that is what leads to confusion. That is what leads to some of the comments that came this evening and throughout the week. I often say it's easier to prevent a fire than to have to put one out at full blaze. With that said, thank you for the short explanation today. Many people probably didn't get an opportunity to hear the meeting this afternoon, at which time there was somewhat of an explanation of the salary schedule. When I and others first looked at it, it created the PTSD from previous executive salary increases, and we were fearful. I was glad to hear that it's not across the board, it's not all executives that are getting a raise, but we didn't know that. The explanation was rational, understandable, and somewhat helped my financial PTSD. The suggestion is to find a way to share the explanation before it shows up on the agenda, and we, as we see it, have a week to come up with our explanation and thoughts about it. Just let us know, because we're able, we're capable, smart enough to understand the strategic work that is being done for all children to achieve their highest potential. Here's to a future of open communication. The public wants to understand. You cannot represent someone that you don't communicate with. Thank you.
Lou Navarra, retired school teacher, Lee County. I was upset about a month ago. I was denied a presentation that was going to go along with the picture. However, Mr. Fielder said I couldn't do it, and Ms. Berner said there's no board policy to allow visual aids. I was told, we do that at Cape Coral, but I was told, well, not here. Now, that's discriminatory. I'm going to ask the board tonight to look into the policies, and you ought to change them before I make complaints. You can't do that. You've done enough about the veterans. You don't even do Veterans Day. You made it a hurricane makeup day, and Dr. Bernier and I have talked about it. So I'm going to ask you to investigate it like a gentleman tonight, and I'd like a report back. Mr. Persons is not here. I request a committee to set up immediately. I've asked several of the board members, Debbie Jordan, Melissa Giovanelli, to study an immediate $60,000 base pay for teachers, and none of you have done it. That's not right. You did it for guns, for the Guardian program. I want to study, okay, Mr. Persons, but you're not here tonight. I met with Dr. Bernier. Here's our agenda, and I'll make it quick, I guess. We went over the pay and insurance, and he made a little inroads. School board policy to deny visual aids. I asked him to look into that. I haven't heard yet from Dr. B. Actions by the superintendent and local board. We talked about the new laws the governor sent down. Have fun, talc. Have fun, board. You're limited now. Substitute pay, I'll let Ms. Sheridan take care of that. Severe teacher shortage, we talked about that. And he said maybe they'd look into these subs too. Guns and cops and perpetrators, we talked about that. And, you know, I question the school board ideology on safety. The sales tax, we discussed that. I'm going to ask the board to look into that again because they don't follow Robert's Rules of Order, and they got hacked off at Cape Coral Council yesterday. I don't think you all ever read that book I gave you. I really don't. Then we did good of the order, and that was he paid for the bottled waters and not out of school board expense. Good guy. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, my name is Sergio Cruz, and I'm a parent and ESC advocate, and just wanted to share some thoughts on inclusion. As Floridians, we have a reputation for finding and embracing the strength in our diversity. This value, however, is oftentimes not reflected in our classrooms, which still segregates students by ability, especially students with developmental disabilities. There's a gap in our understanding about what we know inclusive education to be philosophically versus what we truly understand, and the importance of understanding inclusion in our practice. The question at hand is, how can we find value in the day-to-day practice in our classrooms in terms of inclusive education? To help explain my viewpoint, I'm going to use an age-old sports analogy. So let's talk about bowling. In bowling, you have 10 pins, you have 2 balls, you have 1 lane. The goal is to knock down as many pins as you can, but if you don't get them all, it's okay because you have another chance. But when I bowl, I roll the ball right down the middle. And when I don't knock them all down, what often ends up happening is that there's 2 pins left standing on either end, and they stare at you. It's called the 7-10 split. It's the hardest shot in bowling. So how is bowling like teaching? The ball is the lesson, the pins are the kids. We aim for the middle, and we do the best we can. The pins that are left standing, we often have another chance to kind of get to them. But at the end of the day, those 2 pins that are staring, looking at you, are the kids who need the most support and often have the most challenges. So we end up choosing one, and the other one is left standing. Now, I don't know how many times have you been bowling or watched a professional bowler, but this past Saturday I was able to share some time with our nonprofit's mentees at Lightning Strike on Fowler. And there were some experienced league bowlers and possibly pros there to be able to watch. And the one thing that surprised me was that there wasn't one of those bowlers who rolled that ball down the middle of the lane. They all threw the ball down the lane at a curve, and it was actually really enlightening. So I asked one of the bowlers why, and he was so excited, I got the impression he wasn't asked his expertise on bowling often. And he said simply that the reason why he throws the ball on the curve is because he will knock down more pins, because it will create a bigger domino effect, a bigger wave of impact if you enter at that angle. But in order to do that, you have to change your aim. In order to knock down the most pins with the shot, he would aim for the pins that are hardest to hit. Thank you.
Tara Jenner. I'd like to start off by mentioning that a community member came and saw me this last week, and he was a little disheartened because he comes from another state and he's got 14 years of teaching experience, and he wanted to apply in order to become a substitute teacher because he heard there was a huge teaching shortage. But before he could even get onto the jobs website, he was told that he would have to fork out $48 for fingerprints. Really? You guys are too cheap to pay $48 for fingerprints for potential teachers when you've got all these teacher shortages, but we have no problem adding $50-something thousand for our administrators. And yet I noticed that our teachers that have been serving for under 10 years aren't getting a big pay raise, but the ones that serve more than 10 years, I think if I'm not mistaken, they've gone from $450 to $650 a year. And so I would like to know at some point in time, and I would appreciate an email back on this, what number of admin people do we have compared to the number of teacher staff that we have, and what percentage of our payroll goes to the admin compared to the percentage of our payroll that goes to our teachers. I'd also like to address one of the analogies that was given earlier about you wouldn't kick just a car's tires and decide whether or not you were going to buy it or not. And I would say that that analogy is extremely faulty, because candidly, if I were going to test drive a car and they told me the brakes didn't work, I wouldn't need to drive it down the road to check it out. You can do a little bit of damage with a little bit of information. Also, books are not people. So the analogy that innocent until proven guilty does not apply to books. And even then, we place people in confinement pending trial based on probable cause and a reasonable belief that they might actually tamper with evidence, or they might commit additional crimes and so forth. If you want to use an analogy, use the whole thing. As Pastor Roper said, book banning is an incorrect statement. It's no more accurate than don't say gay. It's a restating what the law says. The law is parental rights, period. I warned people in the past that an elected superintendent would be a bad idea. And one of the leading arguments in favor of a superintendent being elected was that there would be a lower salary than that which is currently available to an appointed superintendent. And I would say that looking at this proposed admin raise, we're all but eliminating that salary discrimination. Just throwing that out there for you all to consider. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes public comment for this evening.
Thank you. Dr. Bernier, do you have any comments?
Mr. Chair, I do. I'd like to raise a couple of concerns, and I'll begin with the last speaker. I'd be happy to get that information. Mr. Dodig will begin to work on that. We can get you the number of support professionals, the number of Schedule N, the number of administrators, teachers, and the number of executives, and then look at the percentage of salary. I do believe I'll deliver that to the board, and then I'll have Mr. Dodig provide that information to you. Mr. Cruz, I've asked Michael Ramirez, my chief of staff, to follow up with you. I've always been impressed with your level of advocacy and your words. I think it's time that you and I have an opportunity to sit down, meet, and talk. There's a lot of other things that I'm trying to save other things. Books, I'm going to repeat what I've said in the past. There is more agreement in this room than there is anything else. We want to make sure that the young people have access to great reading material, and we want to be sure that if there is something contained within our media collection, that parents are duly informed and they have an understanding, just like when we release our children to go to a movie. We'd like to know whether the movie is rated R, PG, etc. We have a responsibility for parents to make an informed decision, and we are trying to get there both with this policy and with our procedures. We will continue to support the laws related to this issue, and we have appreciated all the groups who've participated in providing input to the staff. We believe we're getting there, but all policy and certainly all procedures are a starting point. They are not ever the ending point. They always evolve, they're always rewritten, statutes will change and be revised, and we will continue to adapt those policies as we move forward. I want to clarify for the board, because I followed up with some of you related to the employees of Bonita High School. Those employees who were here at the last board meeting have been contacted. They currently have meetings with our professional standards group. Their resignations, though when people normally resign, I do not allow them to take them back because there was a language barrier. We offered them the opportunity to pull their resignations back because we don't believe they fully understood the decision they were making. So they are working right now in professional standards to work to find either the location back at Bonita or at another high school for those people to continue their employment as in the jobs that they had prior to the situation. So I don't know why they believe that the speaker believes they were not spoken to. They have been, and we will continue to work with them. I want to just make sure I didn't leave anything out before I get to the other. I want to make sure that people understand a little bit about Zubeen. We had a free licensor software to deal with our classroom libraries. Most of the classroom libraries work was done by really wonderful, powerful educators. They did the work to scan all the books. They're now in what we would call a spreadsheet file or a flat file, a CV file, depending on how you want to speak to technology. Beanstack will take those files and now upload them into Beanstack by Zoombeam, which will provide unique links for each school to all the stakeholders to view the classroom libraries in a searchable format. We are looking into how we can expand this technology to do the same with our other collections. Yes, staff time will be necessary to do this work, but we have a responsibility to be compliant with the law, and I believe that this work is aligned to what those individuals are responsible for. I'm not sure I hit everything. If I did not, there will be some other members in touch. We certainly can do an update on legislative priorities and how that turned out for us. I think we've done a phenomenal job this past year, and I thank the board earlier for that work. So let's speak to the issue of a salary schedule. I think it's important for the community, and mostly some of my administrators who are gathered in this room, to completely understand that I am recommending an appropriate change to the executive compensation schedule. What this is not is really important. Since my arrival, I've advocated with all of you and this board to continue to advocate for our employees' compensation packages. We've done amazing work prior to the hurricane regarding benefits. Post-hurricane, we lost the dollars necessary to do the percentage raise that I think everybody who works for this system so richly deserves. I want everyone to know, and I've said this since I've been here, and the administrators I've spoken to in the last several days have said, Dr. B, we understand, but I would never deliver a pay raise to executives before delivery to our Schedule N, our support professionals, our teachers, and our administrators. Those priorities for me have not and will not change. There will be no last-minute memo, and our employees will always come ahead of the executive team. This will not result in raises for all members of that identified classes. I am not raising compensation for all. So what am I doing? I am recommending to this board the ability to create a salary structure to attract and retain employees in very specific situations. We are currently attempting to hire a chief operations officer, a position that until recently had been vacant in this district for over 6 years. When you think about facilities, maintenance, construction, transportation, I watched the board meetings prior to my arrival, and I've listened to this community regarding some of the expectations they have for those particular divisions and departments. We need a leader to lead that division. We were lucky to have 2 individuals at one point. One is coming in from the outside, and the other, the gentleman I brought in just post-hurricane. We could afford neither with the compensation package we had. This board has asked me to raise the bar. It's asked me to make sure I make credible offers to secure talent. This board has asked me to search and find the right people with the right qualifications, and I've set out to do that. Individuals from within this organization are eligible to apply for these positions. But when the interviews were said and done, the chief operations officer to replace Mr. Wagner, who had to leave to go back to Las Vegas, is a gentleman who will be coming from out of state. In order to make a viable employment offer, I needed to request publicly and transparently that the structure regarding our compensation packages for these level of positions be changed, that they consider the level of experience, the market rate, which hovers around $235,000 for a person like this, clearly not in the salary update, so we know we're getting the person for significantly less than that. And in this case, the COO fiscal impact to this district is $18,200. I can pay for that from a position I created before the hurricane. I had a chief operations officer, and we split it with the board's direction and support. I split it into 2 jobs, both paying $175 and change. One was for a chief operations officer, and the other was for a chief operations officer in charge of facilities and construction. I felt the job was too big. In my first recruitment process, I ran into an individual who said, you should put it back together and I can save you the money of having to pay 2 people to do what really is one person's job. That gentleman we were unable to hire because of the compensation we offered him. Mr. Wagner, upon his exit, told me the same thing. Cash in that job description, bring the salary to what will allow you to attract a candidate, so the net cost to the district of that $18,200 is 0. Because we'll be using residual dollars from the other job description. We are also in the market for a Chief of Human Resource Officer. I have heard loudly and clearly from Ms. Jenner tonight, from my principals gathered in this room, that our district needs to do something different when it comes to how we attract, recruit, and retain our employees. What this district needs is not a CHRO for a 35,000 seat system. It needs a CHRO professional for the 100,000 children and teachers we serve, and for a district that could grow to the neighborhood of 170 to 200,000 children. We have to plan for our future. So the COO, the CHRO, replacing the communications and government relations officer, and retaining our chief of staff, that entire impact, if you add up all the movement there, it's less than $80,000. Again, all paid for by cashing in the one extra job that we budgeted and make sure that we use those dollars and return almost $90,000 back to the school district. Compensation for all employees has been a stated and shared goal of this board since I arrived. Benefits are part of compensation. Salaries and percentage raises are part of compensation. I will continue to work with this board to support compensation and salaries first for our educators, our support professionals, our Schedule N, and our well-deserving other employees, including our administrators. These employees will always be first to the bargaining table. When the preliminary budget is settled into a real budget, we believe we have a percentage raise to bring forward to all of our unions and begin the process. But that is a delicate negotiation and not really appropriate for us to discuss publicly. Therefore, I am recommending that if you're going to provide the superintendent the opportunity to bring in the professionals we need, what I needed in return, and the reason why I did it this way, in making it public and putting it on the agenda, was so that we could attract and secure the talent that you expect me to recruit and that I believe this organization deserves. Therefore, tonight, I will continue to recommend this change, knowing that it is only for very specific positions, and that I will not make any other changes to any other administrator's compensation other than the COO, CHRO, the Communication and Government Relations, and the Chief of Staff. And no one will get paid more than the current highest paid employee. So the comment about me being self-serving, I believe at the very base is inaccurate. It is also disingenuous. And I think it was done to inflame the community without basing issues on fact. I have been here a year. I have held on to my integrity. I will speak to the public like I'm speaking to you tonight, and I will share with you that that integrity is non-negotiable. Our teachers, our support professionals, Schedule N, my principals, APs, and other admins deserve the first shot of whatever pie we can come up with in the new budget to reward them for the hard work through COVID, Hurricane Ian, and the work they do every day. This is a targeted opportunity for us to try to increase the amount of applicants and land and select the appropriate candidates who can come in and do the work that needs to be done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Attorney Bruno, do you have any comments?
No, I don't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next on our on our agenda is the approval of action items under consent. The documentation for action items listed under consent is made available to board members 7 business days prior to the board meeting. We're expected to review all material, and we have had an opportunity to speak with the superintendent with any questions we have regarding these recommendations. Some of these items have been briefed or workshopped with the board in advance of appearing on the action agenda. Board members, are there any agenda items you wish to pull for discussion under unfinished business tabled items portion of the agenda? Mr. Fisher?
I have no such items, Chair.
Mrs. Giovanelli?
I have 2. I was pulling J4, approval of the FYI 23 administrator salary schedule, and I3, approval of the award ITN number N237437JA, food-related delivery services. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Patrica?
No, thank you.
Ms. Jordan?
I have none, thank you.
Ms. Langford Fleming?
I have none, thank you.
Ms. Morgan?
And I have none, thank you.
And I have none. There's a motion to approve the agenda consent action items with the exception of the items pulled for items I3 and J4. Is there a motion to approve these with those exceptions? Ms. Jordan?
I move to approve the agenda items with the exception of pulled items J4 and I3 as written.
Okay, and a second. Mr. Fisher? Seconded by Mr. Fisher. Please record your vote. The motion carries 7-0. Dr. Bernier, would you please introduce any administrators in attendance with a new assignment that was approved on the consent agenda?
I'll be happy to, Mr. Chair. One of the first individuals present in the room is Sahara Saramento. She is becoming tonight, with your action, the new director for English of Speakers of Other Languages. Christine Calcara is not available to be with us this evening, but she will be the new assistant principal at Manatee Elementary. Cheryl Neely will be joining the middle school department in academic services, specifically as the executive director for school development in middle school. Listed on the consent agenda but still not fully complete is Mr. Larry Stevens. He's not able to attend this evening. He would be the new candidate for the Chief Operations Officer, but we will have to make decisions regarding the admin schedule because that will be contingent upon his hire. Change of assignment, Kamara Adderley from James Stevens Elementary. She will be the new assistant principal. Dwayne, dare I say, Coach Mack, who is not eligible to be with us this evening, he will become the new assistant principal at North Fort Myers High School. Kathleen Halverson will become the new assistant principal at Ray V. Pardoff Elementary School. Taylor Locke will become the new assistant principal at South Fort Myers High School. Unable to be with us this evening, but wanted me to make a point as to why. He had a scheduled vacation long before this ever happened, and I just, in my heart and soul, believe that time is time. And while this is a big appointment, I do believe it was important for him also to spend time with his family and gather his energy for his new assignment. That individual is Ryan Jackson, who will be the new principal at Cape Coral High School. With your actions tonight, you are taking the coordinator from the superintendent's office, and he will become the new director of planning, growth, and capacity, Dr. Adam Malloy. Wamadira Johnson Dorsey will become the new assistant principal at Franklin Park Elementary. Trayvon Davis will become the new assistant principal at Gateway High. Jared Wallace will become the new assistant principal at Harns Marsh Elementary School. Courtney Thomas will become the new assistant principal at Island Coast High. Jillian Fiora will become the new principal at Spring Creek Elementary. And Alexander Lado will become the new assistant principal at Varsity Lakes Middle. Mr. Chair, if I may, I remind everybody this is a sense of commitment from your board and your superintendent in your skills, but with that come very large expectations. The expectations is for your hard work and your dedication to the students we serve, and to never lose focus on putting our children first and making the best decisions possible for them wherever and whenever possible. They are the purpose and the reason for our work. And the best way to describe this is these appointments are a contract of trust between you, your principals, your supervisors, this board, and your superintendent. We expect you to honor that trust and value it and to conduct yourselves accordingly. I do want to just wish all of our families who are present tonight and those other school members of the family that turned out in support to say thank you to them for the work that you have done to get your individual to this point, and for our principals and some of the support staff that will have them, thank you for what you will continue to do to help them develop and become great leaders and great people within our school district. Mr. Chair, if you would, we could probably send these people out for ice cream or an earlier dinner, but I'll leave that to you to dismiss them after board members might have comments for individuals.
Board members, do you have any comments? I mean, I definitely want to say congratulations to all of y'all. And if y'all would like to leave, this is a good time. It's going to be a long meeting. I know. Last ones. All right, we will continue the meeting. We have two pulled items to address. Dr. Bernier, would you please read your recommendation for pulled item I3?
Yes, Mr. Chair, board members, members of the public, I3, approval to award ITN number N237-437 JA for food and food-related delivery services to OC Trucking Services Corporation as indicated on the attached tabulation sheet. This ITN will be effective for 3 years beginning July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2026 with renewal options for 3 additional one-year periods upon written agreement of the vendor and the district for up to $2,500,000 for the first year of the base contract period of July 1, 2023 through June 30 of 2024. Services include the daily delivery of refrigerated and frozen food and food-related goods from the Florida Freezer Limited Partnership and the district's warehouse to the district kitchens and other designated locations as needed. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
Is there a motion to adopt Dr. Benier's recommendation? Ms. Jordan?
I move to adopt Dr. Bernier's recommendation regarding I3, approval to award ITN number N2374337JA, food and food-related delivery services.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. Morgan.
Ms. Morgan? It's moved by Ms. Jordan and seconded by Ms. Morgan. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Giovanelli?
Yes, I'm the one that actually pulled this. I had requested some additional information, and I did receive that this morning. Actually, yesterday afternoon. I apologize. So I did receive the information. I think it's just important to note that from 2019 through to 21, there was no fees nor this kind of service. We picked up the OC Trucking service and food delivery in 2022 at the cost of $950,000, and now this is doubled. I think I just want to bring it to the community's attention that for me, I am a conservative, fiscally responsible, and I felt that this should be just, brought to the community's attention, because this has doubled in a year. So, like I said, in 2019 through 21, we didn't even need this service. Through COVID, this became a problem, and so we needed deliveries, and we have a food warehouse now. Things have changed, but I think it's important to note this is quite of an expense. I am going to support this evening. I did support it back in 22 as well, but I just think that it doubling, it was a big red flag, and I was very alarmed over that. So I would love to see the district look for other opportunities in this this area. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Ms. Jordan?
I just want to remind everyone as well that the reason that we did go to this is because of the fact that we did not have our food suppliers were not able to handle all of the entire district. So they were unable to deliver the food that was needed to the locations. And that is why we changed vendors, and this came to be. That's for those who were not here at the time.
Dr. Benier.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate, Ms. Giovanelli and I have had a couple of conversations regarding this, but I think the most important thing, and I appreciate Melissa's pull on this item, is this gets down to sometimes what we've discussed and maybe a longer term conversation about how we get some things moved to non-consent, so that we can have a more open discussion. Ms. Giovanelli brings out two very good points. One clarification, however, though, we were first invoiced in January of 22. That first time we went with the system, that was for payments to OC Trucking for half a year. So that's why it was $950,000. The total payments for fiscal year 23, which is the year we're currently in, did more than double. But that was $2,215,511. So that was for a full year payment. What happened to us prior to my arrival, but I know the story, was we wound up having to shift vendors. Those vendors would no longer deliver directly to our schools. I remember listening into a board meeting about freezers and wanted to know why we were changing all the freezers in our schools. Come to find out that's not what we were doing. We were renting refrigeration and freezer space for when our product gets delivered, and now it's up to the school district to make that distribution. OC Trucking is the people who do that distribution. I think it's also worth noting, Ms. Giovanelli pointed it out to me, OC Transportation was not the cheapest bid, but they have been on time and dependable, and they have made all of deliveries, including extra deliveries we've needed to make, without any issue with us getting the food to the students into our school sites.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other discussion? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote. Mr. Fisher?
Aye.
Mrs. Giovanelli?
Aye.
Ms. Patrica?
Yes, please.
Ms. Jordan?
Aye.
Ms. Langford Fleming?
Aye.
Ms. Morgan?
Aye.
And I am an aye. The motion carries 7-0. Dr. Manier, would you please read your recommendation for pulled item J4?
Mr. Chair, the item J4 simply reads approval of fiscal year 23 administrative salary schedule.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt Dr. Manier's recommendation? Ms. Jordan?
I move to adopt Dr. Bernier's recommendation, approval of the FY23 administrator salary schedule as written.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. Morgan?
Ms. Morgan? Is there any discussion? Ms. Giovanelli?
Thank you. I also pulled this. I would actually like to make a motion, and before I make the motion, I just want to talk about a couple things. I appreciate that Dr. Bernier was transparent in bringing this forward this way. An audience member, actually an ex-board member, mentioned the fact of this happening, and probably almost deja vu, because this happened to us about, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. So therefore, it causes for me to have pause over the situation. I want to be real careful because we haven't always dealt with our teachers and treated them professional, and our staff professional, and taking care of them first before we do this. And that's why the alarm that's why everyone's sounding the alarm throughout the district, including other, the staff. I received several phone calls, several emails concerned over this item. I would like to have seen more information regarding how we arrived at this, what basis to justify the increase, show me the comparisons from other districts, the impact to the budget. In November 2024, we are going to have an elected superintendent, and this new schedule gives him free will to be able to do what he wants to do, and we will never have a say. And that is my concern, because we have an elected superintendent that will happen in 2024, and it may be Dr. Bernier, it may not be Dr. Bernier. We don't know who it's going to be, and as a board, it is our responsibility to know the impact to the budget. We didn't have that information. So, I've always advocated for the teachers in the classroom, the money staying in the classroom, and I will continue to do that, because I find this difficult because I feel like this is on the backs of our teachers and our staff, and even if it's not, and because I trust actually what Dr. Bernier is saying, but how it looks, and at the end of the day, what could happen could be on the backs again of our teachers, our staff, and I have a hard time with that. I really do. Something that the audience, someone in the audience said, let's change our aim. Let's aim for the teachers and our staff first, and then we'll take care of the administrators. And I struggle because I know Dr. Bernier has a couple hires that he really wants, and that's what this is directed for. And I do value and know the importance of that right now, because again, we are going into hurricane season without an operations. Even though we did appoint someone tonight, I'm all excited about that, but the deal's not done. So my other concern, when I was looking at the admin salary schedule, I noticed that it's effective June 1st, and today is the 27th of June. So that means it's retro. And that wasn't really discussed or talked about, and that's a transparency piece that it's really important that we know and talk about that and are just open and honest. So I believe let's put our money in the classrooms, and that's where I'm going to be tonight. But I do have a motion that I think some of the information needs to be important and brought forward before something like this happens. And so here's my motion, please. I move that...
Hold it, please. We have a motion on the floor.
Yes, I'm asking for this motion. Okay, Dr. Bruno,
So you're correct, Mr. Chairman.
We have not also finished discussion, so.
Okay.
And then.
All right, then I'll bring
if
my
this motion fails,
Okay.
or if you, that's where we're at, or if you would like, can she amend the motion?
So my recommendation, if you want to vote, because my understanding, the motion that Ms. Giovanelli has brought forth is relating to additional information that I guess she would request prior to the vote. So the easiest thing would be to deal with Ms. Giovanelli's motion and then move forward with the motion for recommendation should her motion fail. The way to do that would be to withdraw, Ms. Jordan, your motion, allow Ms. Giovanelli's motion to move forward, and then we can move forward with the recommendation. That would be the easiest and cleanest way to do it.
Mary?
Yes.
So you want me to withdraw my motion to accept Dr. Bernier's recommendation?
So if we withdraw the motion, allow Ms. Giovanelli to make her motion, see if there's a second. If there is, make the discussion, have that vote, and then move forward then with the motion for the recommendation.
For clarification, Ms. Giovanelli, you would basically want to table this until after you got that information? Is that your intent?
No, that's not my intent.
Because I'm just trying to understand before we...
My intent is to add this information to be to the administrative schedule request. This my motion. I guess I really probably need to say the motion. I think.
So currently we have a motion on the floor. It's been properly seconded. You're in the middle of discussion. If you want to address Ms. Giovanelli's motion, then the recommendation is that the original motion be withdrawn, allow her to make her motion, and then move forward from there.
Yes, Mr. Ward.
So I will withdraw my recommendation regarding Dr. Bernier's recommendation.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, if there's another motion
Yes, is there another motion here, Mrs. Giovanelli?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, my motion is I move that the board direct the superintendent to provide the data from the Economic Research Institute, ERI, and other benchmarks used for the administrative schedule changes, as well as the budgetary impact for the revised salaries as shown on page 27 of the admin schedule.
Is there a second to Ms. Giovanelli's motion?
A motion for purposes of discussion. Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Ms. Morgan.
This is micromanagement of the superintendent. It demonstrates a lack of confidence and trust in the superintendent and the work of his staff. I will not support this motion. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I have asked for clarification.
Ms. Langford Fleming?
May I ask for clarification through the chair to the superintendent? A date was mentioned, June 1st. Can you please clarify that?
The date in the admin schedule in the red line does say signifying they're based upon the date of June 1, 2023. That date did not concern me because these people were being hired after. But the extended offer would occur prior to July 1, so that's why we chose June 1st, 2023. There is no retroactivity for new employees. So this would be moving forward, and again, for the community, there is no other salary changes other than for the COO and those other positions that I mentioned moving forward, not retroactively.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan, did you have comment?
No, thank you. That was my question, was the June. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we will do a roll call vote. Mr. Fisher?
No.
Mrs. Giovanelli?
Yes.
Ms. Patrica?
No, thank you.
Ms. Jordan?
No, thank you.
Ms. Langford Fleming?
No.
Ms. Morgan?
No.
And I am a no. The motion fails 6-1. Now, is there a motion to adopt Dr. Benier's recommendation for J4? I believe it's J4 then. Yes. Ms. Jordan?
I move to adopt Dr. Bernier's recommendation for the approval of the FY23 administrative salary schedule as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Morgan? Is there any discussion? Mr. Fisher?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Juvenelli, I appreciate you bringing this out and discussing it. It is important. I agree with that. I do appreciate the superintendent with his explanation. As I said, I got a lot of feedback as well from the community, and there was a misunderstanding with that. So I completely understand that. So, and I understand where the focus, the target is. So, and as we've all talked about, teachers, staff come first, and you've made that readily apparent both meetings today. So I appreciate that. So I do trust what you're doing. I mean, it is our job to verify, obviously. So, and we'll continue doing that. But I do trust that this is for the limited circumstances you explained. And again, as I said, beyond that, I'm satisfied with the discussion. I appreciate it. And that's all my comments for right now.
Ms. Langford Fleming.
I just want to piggyback off what Board Member Fisher said. Yes, me and Ms. Giovanelli, I respect that you brought this to light and you brought it up for discussion. I think it's incredibly important that we are transparent as a board. That is what I ran on. That's what I campaigned on. That's what I'm going to continue to do. Mrs. Gittens, you made a great comment tonight about putting out the fire before we have to extinguish it. Whatever the analogy was, I agree with you. I think it's important that in the future, when we have items such as what we're discussing now, perhaps we sort of, in the coaching world, I always call beat it off at the pass. So we want to play offense, or we want to play defense before offense sometimes. So I appreciate you coming forward and speaking on that behalf. But yes, I also agree with Mrs. Morgan and the fact that this would be somewhat of a micromanaging of the superintendent. I think he has done a great job at explaining this to the public both this afternoon. I encourage the public listening now to go back and listen to this afternoon's briefing where it was also discussed. Those are my comments for now.
Any other discussion? Ms. Jordan?
I as well appreciate Ms. Giovanelli bringing this up, because I know when I first looked at this, I was kind of taken back as well, because to me the most important, we have to make sure that our teachers and our school-based people are taken care of 100%, because we know that they live and breathe that every single day. But I do also know how important it is to have the COO and what we have gone through without one, and then when we had the one for the short time, the difference that made. So I really do believe that that is something that we have to make sure that we have those people in place. But that's my comments.
Thank you. I also want to just go on record as saying this is definitely not costing the district anything, and in fact is saving money on our budget. So I am all for this. So if we can do a roll call vote. Mr. Fisher?
Aye.
Mrs. Giovanelli?
No.
Ms. Patrica?
Yes, please.
Ms. Jordan?
Aye.
Ms. Langford Fleming?
Aye.
Ms. Morgan?
Aye.
And I am an aye. The motion carries 6-1. Mr. Dupre-Bruno, do you have any recommendations at this point? I don't see any here, but.
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right, next on our agenda is public hearings. Dr. Bernier, would you please present your recommendations for this evening's public hearing items?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of the public. This evening, public hearing items are as follows. Item P1, approval to adopt the annual instructional materials for 612 Health, Glencoe Teen Health 2014, and Glencoe Health Florida Edition 2014 for the 23-24 school year. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents. P2, approval of the contract for renewal with Athenian Academy, Inc., doing business as Athenian Academy Charter School, serving grades pre-K through grade 8 for a 10-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2033. Item P3, approval of the contract renewal for Florida High School for Accelerated Learning, North Lee County Campus, doing business as North Nicholas High School, an alternative education school serving grades 7 through 12 for a 15-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2038. Item P4, approval of the contract renewal for Florida High School for Accelerated Learning, South Lee County Campus, Inc., doing business as Coronado High School, an alternative high school serving grades 7 through 12 for a 15-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2038. Item P5, approval of the contract renewal for Southwest Charter Foundation, Inc., doing business as Bonita Springs Charter School, serving grades K through 8 for a 15-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2038. Approval of the contract for renewal with Southwest Charter Foundation, doing business as Mid-Cape Global Academy, serving grades K through 8 for a 10-year contract from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2033. Item P7, approval of the contract renewal for Southwest Florida Foundation, Inc., doing business as Gateway Charter School, serving students K through 12 for a 10-year term from July 1 through 2023 through June 30, 2033. This contract will also allow the consolidation of the 3 current Gateway Charter Schools, Gateway Elementary Charter, Gateway Intermediate Charter, and Gateway High School Charter into one contracted charter school, Gateway Charter School, serving grades K through 12. Item P8, approval to adopt the 2023-2024 Code of Conduct for Adult Students in compliance with the changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices to promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023. Item P9, approval to adopt the 2023-2024 Code of Conduct for Students pre-K through 12th grade in compliance with changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023. Item P10, approval to repeal current board policies in compliance with changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023. Finally, item P11, approval to adopt new board policies in compliance with the changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023.
Thank you. We will now recess the regular school board meeting and open public hearings. The time is 7:52 p.m. As indicated, the public hearings this evening are to consider Dr. Bernier's recommendations as previously stated. At this time, the public will be invited to speak on these 11 items. The time to allow for public comment is 3 minutes. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding the approval to adopt the annual instructional materials for 6th through 12th Health, Glencoe Teen Health 2014, and Glencoe Health Florida Edition 2014 for the 23-24 school year? We're going to have speakers on each one if you want to speak, so it's specific. Do we have any speakers like to speak on that? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding the approval of a contract for renewal with the Athenian Academy, Inc., doing business as Athenian Academy Charter School, serving grades pre-K through 8th grade for a 10-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2033. Any speakers? Seeing none, we'll move on. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding approval of contract renewal with Florida High School for accelerated learning, North Lee County Campus, Inc., doing business as North Nicholas High School? Yes, we have one speaker.
My name is Robert Daniels. I would just like to say that it seems odd that only one of these schools is up here for a 10-year renewal lease while the others are for 15 each. I also would put in my bit of skepticism as a teacher to whom I don't even get a 2-year renewal contract, that entire schools of questionable integrity should be given 10-year, 15-year contracts for renewal. And I would also like to comment that it's utterly ridiculous that students who routinely fail to complete high school diplomas with our normal K through 12 system due to flat refusal to cooperate with instruction or partake in instruction can enter these facilities, leave with a high school diploma that is worth the same as our students who engage and do what is, I would consider, their civic duty in participating in their learning and earn that high school diploma. So those are my thoughts. I don't think we really can address tonight the idea of the quality of instruction and the validity of the diplomas that are awarded at some of these schools. But I do think we should look at these term lengths all being the same length and at a length of 5 years.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding approval of contract renewal with Florida High School for Accelerated Learning, South Lee County Campus, Inc., doing business as Coronado High School? Seeing none, we'll move on. D5, is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding approval of contract renewal with Southwest Charter Foundation, Inc., doing business as Bonita Springs Charter School? Seeing none. D6, is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding approval of a contract renewal with Southwest Charter Foundation, Inc., doing business as Bonita Springs Charter School? Seeing none, we'll move to 7. Yes. Did we have one? Oh, I'm sorry.
You said Bonita twice.
Oh, did I say Bonita twice? Well, no, there was, you're right. Contract renewal, Southwest, they was listed here twice. Okay. So 6 was, I'm sorry, yeah, Southwest Charter Foundation doing business as Mid-Cape Global Academy. Thank you. Any speakers? Okay, seeing none. Move to 7. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding approval of a contract for renewal with Southwest Florida Foundation, Inc., doing business as Gateway Charter School, serving students K through 12 for a 10-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2033. This contract will also allow the consolidation of 3 current Gateway Charter Schools, Gateway Elementary Charter School, Gateway Intermediate Charter School, and Gateway Charter High School, into one contracted charter school, Gateway Charter School, serving grades K through 12. No speakers. P8, is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding the approval to adopt the 2023-2024 Code of Conduct for adult students in compliance with changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and to promote transparency and accountability? See no speakers. P9, is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board regarding the approval to adopt the 2023-2024 Code of Conduct for students pre-K through 12th grade in compliance with changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and promote transparency and accountability. We have 2 speakers, it looks like.
Sharon McGill. The only thing I'd like to address on this, after having attended several meetings regarding this over the course of the year, was that we're expecting our pre-K through high school kids to adhere, and we expect them to adhere to this code of conduct. Well, we all know that most of them aren't even going to be able to read the code of conduct. So I take exception to the fact that we say in here, everyone is encouraged to read and develop a thorough understanding. Well, we know that's not even going to apply to most of the people that are expected to adhere to it. So I think it really should say everyone is expected. Parents should be expected to be familiar with this and know what's in it ahead of time before anything happens, especially if the district is expecting the children to adhere to it. Then who's going to make sure those children know what's in it? It's the parents, and that's their responsibility. So I really believe that that should say everyone is expected to read and develop a thorough understanding of the code of conduct for students. It's on page 7. And, you know, we say that it's the district's policy that creates a safe learning environment to ensure academic success. And that it's necessary, that's the word that's used, it is necessary that the school environment be a safe and supportive community. Well, then it should be expected that the parents read and know the code of conduct and what's expected of their kids, because we're expecting their kids to act that way. Thank you.
Renetta Gittens and Ms. Langford Ford, the quote was, "It's easier to prevent a fire rather than to put one out." I have something to say about this, but I do want to piggyback on Ms. McGill really quickly. Many times in the Code of Conduct, there are links to further information, and I really agree with her on the word expected, and if whatever you put in there, it would be a good thing to put a link to a comment or whatever of resources, that if they don't understand what they're expected to do, that they can find more information at this particular venue. So that's just a thought. I suggested at a couple of meetings ago about translating the draft of the Student Code of Conduct. And my rationale was, many of the people that are bilingual are the ones that are the most on our, CESA reports and discipline and all of that. And I am a staunch believer that discipline and academics are definitely married. If a child does not know how to read, they will do whatever is necessary to get out of doing that work. So my question is, was there a translation for our bilingual stakeholders that they could understand prior to you voting it in and expecting them to follow it? If yes, kudos. And if no, a follow-up may be in order, especially if they're required to sign an agreement that they have not had input to, that they maybe don't understand parts of it, and because their children are very likely to be in that list of being called to come to school, and the first thing they're given is, well, this is what Johnny did, and here is the code of conduct saying why he shouldn't have done it and what the repercussions are. I kind of go back to what I said before. You can't represent someone you don't understand, and you can't follow something if you don't understand it. Thank you.
P10, is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board policy regarding the approval to repeal current board policies in compliance with changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and promote transparency and accountability? Seeing none. 11. And I want to mention here, we're going to break these. Oh, I'm sorry. I did not see y'all back there. Please come on up.
They're calling for 11.
Oh, for 11? Okay, just one moment. Let me explain. We are going to break this up by the 9 different chapters we have here. So I'm going to read it, and then I'll read each one, and then you can speak. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the audience regarding the approval to adopt new board bylaws in compliance with changes as related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and to promote transparency and accountability? And then it says, please state the policy number that you're referencing in your comments. We will begin with board bylaws. That's 0100 through 0176. If anyone wants to address the board bylaws? Sure, come on up.
Robert Daniels. Again, this is a categorical concern as before, not just the bylaws, but all of the new board policies. I'm out of work for the summer, and due to certain elements of chaos within things beyond my control, I have not had a chance to read this, and I'm one of the few people that get the agenda emailed in, though many of us, opt in on that. Not everybody is able to read that. This is, again, one of those putting out the fire before you have to fight the fire ideas. I would recommend that all new board policies be postponed to be voted in until the July meeting, and a greater effort be put forth to get out to the public what those new policies would be, to provide the time between now and the next meeting for your public to provide feedback to you. I am not going to lie, when I sat down today in the brief time I had to do my research, I got to watch part of your board meeting earlier, the briefing meeting, and I had enough time to read about the administrative salary things, which is why I did not have an objection to that. I was not able to get down to this, and I would very much like to, myself and other members of the public, be able to know what these are before you vote on them, so we have a chance to provide you feedback on these policies, as well as give those of us more law-minded, like Mrs. Jenner, a chance to review them and see how they would line up with, the Citizen Bills of Rights for Florida. Thank you.
Smoking Joe, I want to kind of agree with what Mr. Daniels just said. Y'all are pulling something 200, you're pulling and you're adding 5, and you're not implementing none of them well. And the public has not had time to see this. We have no say in what y'all do other than this 3 minutes. I think that you really ought to pull this like the gentleman before me said, and let the public have time to see what you're really trying to push in on us. I don't agree with some of your policies as they stand, and I don't agree with y'all. Know I bring the receipts. If I've got something to say, I'm going to have proof. I'm not going to come without it. I didn't come here to inflame the public, but I hope they get inflamed. Everyone should be inflamed by what this board is doing. And I assure you, I have a lot of things from when Savage pulled the same thing, Dr. Bernier. So I don't appreciate you trying to discredit me, because I'm trying to be factual. And I will sit down with you any day and show you my paperwork. Please think about the people, the children, instead of yourself serving, trying to keep a job.
Next is Chapter 1000, Administration Policies 1001 to Policy 1600. Any speakers? Next is policy 2,111 to policy 2,800. Any speakers?
Topic.
What's the topic of that one?
Mrs. DePay Bruno?
Chapter 2000 is titled Programs.
Yes, I'm sorry, it was written there. My fault. Okay. Chapter 3000, Instructional Staff. Policy 3,111 to policy 3,600. That's instructional staff. Any speakers? Chapter 4000, Support Staff. Policy 4,111 to policy 4600. Chapter 5000, Student. Policy 5,111.01 to policy 5895. Any speakers? Chapter 6000, Finances. Policy 6100 to policy 6910. Seeing none. Chapter 7000, which is Property, which is policy 7100 to policy 7500. Any speakers? Chapter 8000, Operations, policy 8100 to policy 8910. See no speakers. Chapter 9000, Community Relations, policy 9100 to policy 9800. Yes, please come up.
Sharon McGill. I think you all know that I'm pretty passionate about community involvement in the district. And so rather than trying to go through all of the policies, I focused on a couple. And one of them is the Citizens Advisory Committees, 9140. And after the last meeting, I mentioned that it looked like there were some typos, and it looks like that got corrected. And I appreciate the fact that you went from 3 to 2 meetings for somebody to be expelled. But I still really have an issue with citizens may serve multiple terms because there's no limit on it. If there was a limit, it would be fine, but there's no limit, which means it could go on for perpetuity. And that it doesn't state that a member can only sit on one committee at a time. If we're all about transparency and trying to involve as many people as possible in this whole process, then we've got enough people in this community that we don't need to have the same person sitting on multiple committees. And if you're having problems getting people to sit on committees, I'll make a commitment to you that I will go out and actively try to get people to sit on committees, because I think the people are out there. They just need to know how important it really is. And so before you approve this, I really wish that you would take another look at it. And you were talking about some wording about directing versus may and should or will, and I think you might need to take a look at this again, because it looks like some of that was not corrected in this revision. And in paragraph F, the second paragraph of F, there still is something that needs to be corrected. There's typos in there. So before you approve this one, I would pull it and make sure you go through this again thoroughly and check it for all the changes. Thank you.
All right, that takes care of our policies here and the public hearing. I will now close the public hearing and reconvene the regular school board meeting of June 27, 2023. The time is 8:13. Dr. Bernier, please restate your recommendations for this evening public items one at a time.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of the public, the first item is item P1, approval to adopt the annual instructional materials for 612 Health, Glencoe Teen Health 2014, and Glencoe Health Florida Edition 2014 for the 22-23-2024 school year. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve to adopt the annual instructional materials for 6 through 12 Health Glencoe Teen Health 2014 and Glencoe Health Florida Edition 2014 for the 2023-2024 school year. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Fisher?
Motion to approve item P1.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't write down who seconded.
Morgan.
Ms.
Thank
Morgan.
you.
Okay, please record your vote. The motion carries 7-0. Mr. Bernier, would you please read item 2?
Item P2, approval of the contract for the renewal of Athenian Academy, Inc., doing business as Athenian Academy Charter School, serving grades pre-K through 8th grade for a 10-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2033.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the contract for renewal with Athenian Academy, Inc., doing business as Athenian Academy Charter School, serving grades pre-K through 8th grade for a 10-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2033. Board members, is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve P2, approval of the contract for renewal with Athenian Academy, doing business as Athenian Academy Charter School.
I'll second that.
Okay, Ms. Giovanelli seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Bernier, please continue.
Item P3, approval of the contract renewal for Florida High School for Accelerated Learning, North Lee County Campus, Inc., doing business as North Nicholas High School, an alternative education school serving grades 7 through 12 for a 15-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2038.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the contract renewal with Florida High School for Accelerated Learning, North Lee County Campus, Inc., doing business as North Nicholas High School, an alternative education school serving grades 7 through 12 for a 15-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2038. Board members, is there a motion to approve P3? Ms. Jordan?
I move to approve the contract renewal with Florida High School for Accelerated Learning, North Lee County Campus, Inc., doing business as North Nicholas High School.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Giovanelli. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Bernier, please proceed.
Item P4, approval of the contract renewal with Florida High School for Accelerated Learning South Lee County Campus, Inc., doing business as Coronado High School, an alternative high school serving grades 7 through 12 for a 15-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2038.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. The board approved the contract renewal with Florida High School for Accelerated Learning South Lee County Campus, Inc., doing business as Coronado High School, an alternative high school serving grades 7 through 12 for a 15-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2038. Board members, is there a motion to approve? Ms. Jordan?
I move to approve the contract renewal with Florida High School for Accelerated Learning, South Lee County Campus, Inc., doing business as Coronado High School as written.
Okay, second.
I'll second.
Ms. Morgan. Any discussion? Yes, Mrs. Morgan.
I'm not going to discuss this particular item, but in response to Mr. Daniels' comment about terms, tenure for employees is established by the state. The state also has statutes requiring us to review charters, and they provide parameters for that approval. And so these 10-year terms that you see are essentially a product of the state. So just wanted you to be aware of that. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Bernier, please proceed.
Item P5, approval of the contract renewal for Southwest Charter Foundation, Inc., doing business as Bonita Springs Charter School, serving grades K through 8 for a 15-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2038.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the contract renewal with Southwest Charter Foundation, Inc., doing business as Bonita Springs Charter School, serving grades K through 8 for a 15-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2038. Board members, is there a motion to approve? Mr. Fisher?
Motion to approve item P5.
Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Langford Fleming, second. Any discussion? Please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Bernier, please proceed.
Item P6, approval of the contract renewal for Southwest Charter Foundation, Inc., doing business as Mid-Cape Global Academy, serving grades K through 8 for a 10-year contract from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2033.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation. The board approved the contract for renewal with Southwest Charter Foundation, Inc., doing business as Mid-Cape Global Academy, serving grades K-8 for a 10-year contract from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2033. Board members, is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve P6, approval of contract for renewal with Southwest Charter Foundation, doing business as Mid-Cape Global Academy.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Giovanelli? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Please proceed, Dr. Bernier.
Item P7, approval of the contract renewal for Southwest Florida Foundation, Inc., doing business as Gateway Charter School, serving students K through 12 for a 10-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2033. This contract will also allow the consolidation of the 3 current Gateway Charter Schools, Gateway Elementary Charter, Gateway Intermediate Charter, and Gateway Charter High School, into one contracted charter school, Gateway Charter School, serving grades K through 12.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation. The board approved the contract for renewal with Southwest Florida Foundation, Inc., doing business as Gateway Charter School, serving students K through 12 for a 10-year term from July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2033. This contract will also allow the consolidation of 3 current Gateway Charter Schools, Gateway Elementary Charter School, Gateway Intermediate Charter School, Gateway Charter High School, into one contracted charter school, Gateway Charter School, serving grades K through 12. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Fisher?
Motion to approve stated item P7.
Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Langford? Fleming? Okay, is there any discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Please proceed, Dr. Bernier.
Item P8, approval to adopt the 2023-2024 Code of Conduct for Adult Students in compliance with the changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve to adopt the 2023-2024 Code of Conduct for Adult Students in compliance with changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and to promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023. Is there a motion to approve? Ms. Jordan?
I move to approve to adopt the 2023-2024 Code of Conduct for Adult Students.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Morgan.
Ms. Morgan? Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Bernier, please proceed with item 9.
Item P9, approval to adopt the 2023-2024 Code of Conduct for Students pre-K through 12th grade in compliance with the changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and to promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023.
You've heard the student's recommendation that the board approve to adopt the 2023-2024 Code of Conduct for Students, PK through 12th grade, in compliance with changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and to promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023. Board members, is there a motion to approve? Mr. Fisher?
Motion to approve stated item P9.
Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Langford Fleming? Is there any discussion? Yes, Ms. Jordan?
Just a quick comment. With the words, there were several comments about encourage, expect it, and I know that was a conversation that we had, I believe, at length of what was the right terminology to use, because we really can't force, and that's where we came up with the encouraged. So I just wanted to make sure that this is something that we have had multiple conversations on, and that's where that word came from.
Thank you. Ms. Giovanelli?
Yeah, I thought we were going to have a read receipt like when if the superintendent could elaborate a little bit more, that's still happening. Thank you.
Yes, the board has been clear that we had expectations, you had expectations for staff regarding when the code of conduct goes out, that there be some form of receipt to ensure that parents had received their copy. Additionally, I would like you to know that we looked into the translation that was brought on by another speaker. Due to the redlining nature of this, we got started way too late with that, and it would have delayed the adoption of the code of conduct. But the process is being put in place to translate the draft documents in advance before we bring it to the board. We needed the additional lead time in order to be able to accomplish that. So we couldn't accomplish it this year, and the code will be produced in other languages, the final document. We have added that translation process to the developmental portion of the development of the code.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Bernier, please continue.
Item P10, this is the approval to repeal the current board policies in compliance with the changes and related rules, regulations, and statutes, to adopt best practices and to promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28th, 2023.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the repeal of current board policies in compliance with changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes, to adopt best practices and to promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023. Board members, is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve P10, approval to repeal current board policies.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jordan? Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes. Please.
Thank you. If I may, through the chair, direct a question to Attorney Dupree-Bruno. Attorney Dupree-Bruno, could you discuss briefly the process, the lengthy, extensive, transparent, open process this board has gone through in order to get to the point where we are repealing all policies and approving almost all policies in one night? Thank you.
Certainly, Ms. Patrica, through the chair. The review and conversion of our policies was a major project that was very time-consuming, that involved many, many individuals in central leadership. We started this journey last July with the goal of final adoption in June 2023. Each chapter of the new policies were reviewed in public, with the policies posted on the agenda for public review. Nearly every month since last summer, there were policy workshops which were properly noticed and open to the public. These took place prior to the formal rulemaking process. The board received emails and feedback from members of the public on various policies during these workshops and after these workshops. Further, it was announced during multiple action meetings that the board will be moving forward with the formal rulemaking process, which is 28 days, with the first reading at the June 13th briefing and the second reading on the June 27th, today's action meetings in compliance with statute. Many people were involved in the process, and I think I'll reserve the rest of my statement for after the final adoption if the board so chooses to adopt.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? I would like to say I remember watching this when I was a candidate, watching it on YouTube. And it was very lengthy and the staff did great work. So that's all I have to say at this time. Please record your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Bernier, please proceed.
Item P11 is the approval to adopt new board policies in compliance with the changes and related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the adoption of the new board policies in compliance with changes in related rules, regulations, and statutes to adopt best practices and promote transparency and accountability. The effective date of this adoption shall be June 28, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the adopt and to adopt the new board policies.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, Mrs. Langford, Fleming. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm wondering whether there's an appetite on the board to allow me to make an amendment to remove 9140, the Citizens Advisory Committee, separately. And the reason why I'd like to do that is because in my one-on-one with Attorney Dupree Bruno last week, I expressed concern about citizens serving on more than one committee. And I think this is a little funny. I think I was literally sitting on a rock in the woods in Maine, and I was unable to keep notes about the fact that I wanted to pull that or discuss that more with the board. If you look at 9140, the very first paragraph says that we should make every effort to reflect the racial and ethnic composition of the current Lee County community population whenever possible. I believe it is contradictory to allow one person to serve on two committees. I think it contradicts that first paragraph. And then under F, we could simply amend it to say citizens may be appointed to serve multiple terms on the same committee, but may not serve on more than one committee at the same time. So it's a minor change that I think we could accomplish tonight, if the board is willing. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Can we do a motion to amend the one policy now?
So I do believe that,
Or will we have to pull the whole?
because at this point, you don't have any policies.
Right.
So my preference would be, and I understand what Ms. Patrica said, and I believe this came up in multiple one-on-ones, that we were going to bring back 9140 when I bring it back additional policies in August. So my preference would be to adopt the policy tonight as is, and then allow for that change, if the board directs me to make that change, and bring that back with the other policies in August.
I think that would be the cleanest way to do it personally here. How do we get the board to do without? I guess we just go ahead and pass, and then we'll bring up and direct you.
There's no motion at this time, so you still have this particular recommendation is what you're voting on. After we finish this vote, if the board wants to move forward, I just need a consensus from the board that says, Kathy, please go ahead and change that, and then I'll bring it forward, because I know that in each of our one-on-ones we discussed that.
Yeah, and there will be other policies too that we'll be doing this to over the course of forever. I mean, so as things come up and we have to tweak it or amend it. So, Ms. Patrica, I think, yes.
I was just going to ask if I could weigh in. I appreciate that, and I'm willing to approve the policy with the understanding that it will come back relatively quickly, especially as we're appointing new committee members in August. I'd really like to see that approval made quickly. So I'm good with voting on this, but I do have another question for the board attorney, if I may, through the chair.
Yes.
Thank you. So, Attorney Dupree Bruno, are we adopting the policy regarding telephonic or virtual participation in closed sessions, closed legal sessions? Are we approving that tonight?
No, that policy has been pulled, that 0166. That's another one that will be coming forward in August.
Perfect. And that was what I expected of 9140 as well. I really thought 9140 was going to be pulled as well. But I'm happy to do it the way it has been suggested. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patrica. Any other discussion? Okay, if you'll please record your vote on this motion. Motion carries 7-0. Who should I go first here? Dr. Benier, do you have any comments on these first?
Just a quick comment from me, Chair. Esquire Dupree Bruno has the longer, more direct compliment, but first and foremost, I'd like to recognize two of our partners in this process who are seated in the audience, the members of the Neola team who walked us through countless work sessions and board meetings, and not only that, but worked tirelessly also behind the scenes to help staff get this work done. I find it interesting that there's only just a couple of staff left at this point because others are off doing other things with some of our speakers. But I do want to just congratulate the entire staff. This has been a huge Herculean effort to restore and revise all of the policies for our school district. The procedures now lie below those, and some of what we heard from speakers tonight is those details are incredibly important. But this now gives us the opportunity to work with Neola, some of the policies from other procedures from the other school districts, and begin to develop our own so that we're in compliance with what your policies say as a staff and the way we conduct ourselves. I cannot thank Neola enough, but most importantly, I cannot thank this team enough who worked tirelessly to get this work before you, and as you had revisions and other things, they went back to work and completed this work not only quickly and efficiently, but accurately and within the time frames you set. It's another example of great leadership and great commitment from the staff to do the work that's expected of them in order to provide you the governance structures and the rules that you would then ask your superintendent and all of their staff to follow. So appreciate this. Shout out to all the individuals involved in rewriting it. And the good news for everyone is as statutes and things revise in the state, Neola will help us by sending us draft language. We will not have to revise every one of our policies. They will send us revisions and then we can adopt those. So this gives us an opportunity to keep things current and never allow a policy to fall 2, 3, 4 years behind. So thank you for this work. Thank you to the board's commitment as well. Lots of work sessions, and Mr. Persons, you are correct. Some of that was seen when you were running. We were doing that work prior to 3 of you being seated at this dais. So thank you. Kathy.
So we are adopting just over 580 policies this evening. And just to give, especially the public, in terms of what took place, literally staff sat, looked at our current policies compared to the Neola policies. Some of our current policies are actually adopted as part of these new policies. They just have new numbers. It was a very painstaking process that we went through. And I'm going to continue my statements because I think it's very, very important that we acknowledge what staff did in this particular instance. There were many people who were involved in the process. The board will recall that during some of these policy workshops, you had, I don't know, 5, 10 staff members from each division that was sitting in the audience while you were going through them. Those are all of the individuals that was part of that process. The work took quite a bit of time, lots of reviewing, meeting with board members in one-on-ones. In order to move this project forward, the chiefs appointed Neola champions for their divisions, making the Neola project team leads. They picked the right ones. Tammy Scott with Academic Services, and I'll keep saying her name over and over again because remember we were in the middle of a hurricane and the aftermath of a hurricane and the stretch that a project this size had on the district while we were dealing with the aftermath of a hurricane is extraordinary. Susan Millay, of course, Business Services, Dr. Jim Short, Information Systems, Tony Caro, and prior to her was Linda Joe for Operations, Lisa Vasquez with HR, and I know that Lisa worked hand in hand with Rob Dodig, Dr. Ken Savage, who was the superintendent's representative. In addition, every member of the legal team, Shayna Zupke, Corey Huffman, Corus McIntosh, Benny Brophy, was a part of this project. Thank you to Tom Young for the guidance that he provided, our Neola representative, who not only sat with staff behind the scenes and went through every single 500 plus policies with staff and challenging us when we wanted to make changes and recommending changes with his team was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you to Frances St. James, who was Tom's right hand in this process. And we even had times that we had to call the vice president, I think actually she's the president now of Neola. Yeah, we had to call the president of Neola from time to time, Amanda Clapp, to get answers to some of our questions. And then of course, Tom led the board with its workshops. Thank you to Jen Schaefer, who made sure that the Neola project team lead was all set up with board docs so they can do their work. And finally, to our superintendent, who without his leadership, we could not have gotten this done, because when we needed to pause after the aftermath of the hurricane, he said, go ahead and pause. But when it was time for us to get back to work, he said, okay, it's now time to get back to work, and encouraged us and asked those leads to dig even deeper to find as much more strength as they could to ensure that we met the board's goal and brought these policies this evening for board adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to good of the order and other business. Ms. Giovanelli, did you want to make a motion? Was yours covered earlier?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, just want to make sure. The Florida School Board Association, I'm bringing this forward before everybody does their finishing talk here. The FSBA annually seeks a board member to represent the district on their district's advocacy, sorry about that, committee. The term runs from July 1st through June 30th, 2024. The advocacy committee will begin work in early August and will be appointing its legislative and federal subcommittee members by September 1st. Tonight, I would like to make a motion to select the FSBA advocacy liaison and alternate for the upcoming term. And do I have a second?
Second.
It's Jordan? Okay. Is there any discussion? I think we all know what this is. You want to?
I would just like to say, if I would like the opportunity to take that position.
Thank you.
Will you not give no comment on this? That's why I sat here all night.
So there will be public comment, because this is a motion that's not part of the consent agenda, but they're not at that point yet. The comment will be prior to the vote.
Yep.
And this would be for the advocacy.
Yes,
for
the
FSBA.
FSBA.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion?
May I?
Okay, yes. Yes, Ms. Patrica.
Thank you. So I remember when I first sat on the board, I was appointed to this, and it was a fantastic way to get to know FSBA and get to know legislators, not just in our own local delegation, but across the state. And we have, FSBA has weekly meetings during session, during which everything that's being considered by the legislature is broken down and talked about in detail. My point, to make a long story short, I believe that this is, no offense, Ms. Jordan, I believe this is appropriate for a newer board member because of the experience they can gain through doing in this. And I also think that, the relationships that Mr. Fisher, chairpersons, and Ms. Jada Langford Fleming, Mrs. Jada Langford Fleming have with our local delegation. You can't beat that. So those are my 2 cents. Thank you.
address that a little bit. We have a second motion coming up where we're going to, this is going to be strictly for the FSBA, and then we're going to create a new liaison to the Southwest Florida delegation, which would be sort of what you said right there. So we think this is a lot for just one person to be doing everything. So right now we're on the FSBA liaison. So yes.
So just to be clear, the motion that's on the table is to whether or not the board wants to move forward with selecting
Yes.
tonight.
Right.
Then if there is a candidate, then we'll do a motion to actually appoint that person.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion before we vote on this? Okay, please record your vote.
Well, before we do the vote, we need to have the public have comment because this is a motion not
true.
on the agenda.
I'm sorry. Please come up, Mr. Phillips.
Smoking Joe, you all know that nobody in the general public knew nothing about this before tonight. And I did. How did I know? Because we already knew that the king of nepotism, the dynasty over here, is being conducted by Terry Miller, and this is another way to control. Debbie Jordan, you got no chance of getting nothing with this group. Melissa, thank you for standing by. You've got no chance. They're going to put Armour or Sam because they don't want Jada to mess it up. This is another control tactic by a political strategy company who gave you your jobs. You can shake your head all you want. I come with receipts, brother. How did I know it? How am I here? You're going to try me? I'm telling you, I've got plenty of information. This is stupid. We didn't elect one person to speak on our behalf. We're all elected. And I can guarantee you my vote didn't go over there or over there. I got 1,000,000 questions for you yet. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Oh wait, we're done with discussion. Let's record our vote, please. Is this a hand vote? Okay, I'm sorry. Mr. Fisher?
Aye.
Mrs. Giovanelli?
Well,
voting
hold on. I don't know what we're voting on because we weren't given we weren't told this. We were given a motion to create a new board advocacy position. So I'm a little confused now. Are we separating it out? We didn't really.
Yes. Okay. May I explain, or
please?
Or would you like?
There's a motion on the table. The motion is to whether or not the board wants to select the FSBA advocacy liaison and alternate for the upcoming term. So that's the first question that's on the table. That is the motion.
Right.
It's been properly seconded. There's been discussion. Public has spoke. Now it's time for the vote.
Yes, and an alternate.
Okay.
This is, I mean, we've had one before. This is
Right.
nothing
It's
new.
usually on the agenda.
But what happened is FSBA said we needed to get the name in. That's why it was added under here. It's time sensitive.
But but what are we voting on? Because this is normal.
This is just, we're just voting to do this tonight is all we're voting on.
So the vote is whether or not the board wants to proceed to appoint somebody to serve on the FSBA. That's step one. If the board decides to do that, then the board will then nominate somebody and vote on that person. That will be step two. So your vote right now is, does the board want to move forward, because the way this motion is, does the board want to move forward to select somebody tonight to serve on the FSBA as the FSBA advocacy liaison and an alternate? That's the motion on the floor.
So presently, who for the transparency and for the public, who is the representative and who's the alternate? Thank you.
So
and if I may, this would have been done on at the
Reorganization. Oh, no.
At our reorg. So when we decided committees, that's when this would have been done, which was last month. It was not done. And there is a time frame which it has to be sent in to FSBA. And that's where, I believe, is where we're at right now with this situation.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm a yes, because I know it's down the line, but I think in the future, we can't do, I mean, this should have been on the agenda, or, I mean, we always have, stuff thrown in at the last minute, and why couldn't this have been in there? I don't understand. So, and presented that way. What was presented is very different than this, and so I had no idea that this was taking place, nor prepared to understand that, so.
Yeah, we talked about this at the briefing.
I didn't understand. It wasn't clear.
So board members, let's get back to where we are. At this
yes.
point, we are voting.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Please record your vote.
it's a roll call vote.
A roll call, I'm sorry.
And I'm a yes.
Thank you. Ms. Patrica?
Yes, please.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Langford Fleming?
Yes.
Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Now we'll open nominations. Mr. Fisher?
I would like to motion to appoint Debbie Jordan to the FSBA liaison.
Okay. We will be doing the appointee, and then we'll do the alternate just for comment there. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we'll do. Yes.
No, is there a second?
Is there? I'm sorry. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. All right. Let's have a vote. Mr. Fisher?
Aye.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Yes.
Ms. Patrica?
Yes, please.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Fleming?
Yes.
Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So, Ms. Jordan, you are now our representative to the FSBA there. Okay, do we have a nomination for a alternate? I would like to nominate Ms. Giovanelli.
Thank you, but I decline. Thank you.
Okay. Any other nominations?
Ms. Giovanni,
Ms. Fleming?
as an alternate.
Okay. Do you accept?
Sure.
Okay. Is there a second? Mr. Fisher seconds. Do a roll call vote for the alternate, Ms. Langford Fleming. Mr. Fisher?
Aye.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Yes.
Ms. Patrica?
Yes, please.
Ms. Jordan?
Yes.
Ms. Fleming?
Aye.
Ms. Morgan?
Yes.
And I am an aye. So you passed 7-0. Congratulations to both of you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just to be clear, I just want to make sure, I think Dr. Savage will probably work on this to update the list for the committees, and this will be for a 2-year term.
Yes. I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
it is a 2-year term as the FSBA requests. Okay. Now, I had another good of the order that at one time was tied together. I'm sorry about that. And this is to create a representative from the board with the local delegation, legislative, Southwest Florida. And this is not through the FSBA. Do I have a second for that motion?
Mr. Chairman, do you
Yes.
probably read the entire motion?
Yeah, I should. Hold on a second. I know I sent it to everyone, but this motion is to create a new board advocacy position and an alternate to be named the Southwest Florida Legislative Liaison. This position will be the point person advocating as directed by the board with local and state officials. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Ms. Langford Fleming. Discussion? Anyone?
Isn't it public?
Discussion.
Discussion, then public. Yes, Ms. Morgan.
Okay, the way it currently operates, and I think it operated extraordinarily effectively this last legislative session, is that our lobbyists, well, first of all, the board lobbies individual members of the delegation and as a team when we go up to Tallahassee. The way we worked it the last couple of years is our lobbyist has let us know when we as a board need to engage with members of the delegation, and we are encouraged to develop relationships with members of the delegation, and not all of us have the same kind of relationship with each member of the delegation. I am very concerned about this motion coming forward for two reasons. One, if there's been consultation with Kim McDougall at Gray Robinson, and she feels this is an effective way for us to lobby. Two, we will be hiring a new government relations person, and I think that person needs to have the opportunity to weigh in about how they want to work with the board and or an individual who's delegated. And again, I reiterate that different board members have different relationships with different legislators, and I think I am just very concerned about doing this because, one, I don't understand the reason to do it. And as I said, I think I'd like to have other people who are involved in our effort to support our platform engage with us and how we as a board are most effective. So that would be my comment. Thank you.
Any other comments? I'll address that a little bit. I don't think this precludes any board member from, and I would encourage any board member, as I did all session long, and I know others did, to do this. I just think, and I know other districts have done this, to have a board member, and it doesn't have to be the chair, it could be anyone, to go and lobby, because you cannot lobby too much. I mean, McDougall told me just when I was up there and told all y'all, speak to whoever you know as often as you know. You know, that was our whole deal. I mean, I went to the state legislative capitol, I think 6 times this year and spoke to people. And it turned out very well, and we all went up there and did it, and we got more this year than we ever have. So I think we just need to sort of continue that. I just think we have probably a little more clout sometimes having one person speak as far as getting appointments and doing things for the board, though. Remember, no one person, it's not their agenda, it's the board's agenda that we're trying to get through to the legislature what we need and why we need it. So that's why I brought this up. But again, that's all I have to say about it. Public comment?
There's more discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not. If you'll just wait one moment. I didn't see his hand up there, Mr. Fisher.
I'm going to support this motion. I agree with it. I mean, at least how we were operating, it was kind of a combination between FSBA and legislative liaison this last session. At least that's how it was portrayed. So I would support splitting both of those duties as we are at this point. So I agree, we all do need to reach out to our leaders, local and statewide. It's important, but I believe it is good to have one voice, one person going to make and discuss to go through these meetings. So I think it does make things simpler, so, and more effective. Thank you.
Giovanelli?
But we really aren't all one voice, technically. We represent different communities, different districts. Some of us don't always agree with some of the things that the board has done. So, I mean, I don't know how you can silence someone. I mean, we're all equal elected officials, and I think having one liaison silence the 6 others. So I don't think that I can support this, because I feel that it's important to go to FSBA. We learn so much with FSBA, and not all board members are attending FSBA, and their advocacy is huge, and they are effective. And so unless we're all going to be on board with advocating the same, because we don't. So I don't understand how that would work exactly, because then it becomes, I think, one person's agenda, and I think we have to be careful there. I think it's a fine line, and I think that we, as our individuals, and I might advocate harder for a turf field in Fort Myers High School, and somebody else might want one in Bonita. So I don't know.
Sure.
When I meant voice, I meant our platform, so my apologies when I was saying that. It doesn't preclude anyone from calling or meeting up with anyone, local leaders. I mean, all of us have done it, so I don't see an issue with that part. So that's what I meant in regards to that. Thank you.
We come up with our legislative ask or agenda or whatever platform, and that's what we took to Tallahassee and kept going over and over and over and over. I know when I was up there, I would just say the same thing that we all did as a group, but I'd meet more and more people, you know, and it's just, and I worked with the lobbyists when I was up there, and Debbie, I think you went up there a separate time too, didn't you, with the FSBA? And I'm sure she was doing the same thing that we did, you know, and she went up with us also. So I just think it's just another voice, not to stifle any voice, but I just think it's a little more important. When you walk up there and you say, I'm the District 3 representative from Lee County, I want this, you know, you're welcome to do that. But when you go and say, I'm representing I'm the liaison for the Lee County School Board, and this is what we want as a board. It's not any one person's view, whoever we pick for it. It's got to be the board's, you know, agenda to press it. That was all. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, please.
I don't see any harm in the creation of the position. I do think that focusing legislative efforts through one person can streamline the process. I would have liked to have had Kim McDougall's feedback going into this. However, I can't fathom that she would think it was a bad thing because we have that at FSBA, and she is the lobbyist for FSBA as well. So I don't have a problem supporting it. I do wonder a little bit about what it is that you envision and how we would carry this out. So, for example, we have our delegation meeting each year where every government entity and other groups go in front of the delegation to, give a brief ask for the session. Would our legislative liaison now do that instead of the chair?
Good question. I think it's tradition that the chair do it. But the liaison would be following through over and over. That particular thing you're talking about where you go up in front of them, you get like 2 minutes or less to say 20 minutes worth of stuff. So it's just it's not much of anything. But it is a way to introduce yourself and let them know that we need. What I did when I went there is I just stressed the need we had because of the hurricane and couldn't get into any of the other priorities really. So I don't see that being a conflict at all. And if the board wanted the liaison to do it instead of the chair, I wouldn't have a problem with that either. So.
One final question, if I may, through the chair to the superintendent and the board
Yes.
attorney. Do you see any specific positives or any potential pitfalls with this, please?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Yeah, yes, that's a hypothetical question. I can see both pitfalls and advantages to it. It would give our chief of communications and government relations a singular point of contact with the board for communication. However, if that individual is not speaking on behalf of all the board members, that's a pitfall. I do also agree that I can't speak for what I learned a long time ago, because I've known Kim for a long time, Kim McDougall. I don't speak on Kim McDougall's behalf. I do believe having the opportunity to at least converse with her as to how this could operate within her world, because she is also the one who set a great number of those appointments for us, got us into staff. We just didn't deal with electeds. Remember, we had a very specific direction of getting with staff first, and the governor, House, and Senate, making sure the staff were aware of our asks. And then, if you recall, we had a really great session with electeds who would start using staff names, and you were fully prepared to say, hey, we've already talked to your staff about that. They have all our information, they're already working through the budgetary process. I don't know that new ideas are bad ideas, though, right? It's just, we'll have to work, if this is the will of the board, we'll work through it, and I will work with whoever the new communications and government relations chief is to ensure that they have not just the global, they have the global view, but also that individual person who's been identified as well, and continue to work with our newly elected 2-year term FSBA person, who is Debbie Jordan. So Ms. Patrica, you're asking me to ask a hypothetical, and in all situations where new things are created, there are both intended and unintended consequences. We will just have to reflect. This is a decision for the board, and then the superintendent will be asked to administrate it as the board sees fit.
Thank you. And the reason why I requested your feedback was to see it differently. May I continue, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So I think that I might feel more comfortable asking to table this item until the superintendent or a member of his staff has had a moment to discuss this with Kim McDougall, and perhaps you as the chair could contact Kim McDougall to find out what her feedback is. I think I'd feel far more comfortable approving it under those circumstances. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, I have no problem with that. Originally, this was splitting one, and then we realized that that it was not. The FSBA advocacy person was not also the legislative, that they were just through the FSBA. So to me, that's the only reason we went forward is tonight. I have no problem with tabling it to later. We were not going to pick that person tonight. That was not the purpose of this, just to create the position, and then it would have been filled with when we do all our committee assignments coming up here at a future date soon. Mr. Jordan?
Oh, is Ms. Patrica finished?
Yeah, Ms. Patrica, are you finished? I believe so.
Okay, so I would just ask the same, if we could then table it and then get the information from Ms. McDougall. And then that way we have clarity of what that looks like for all of us.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I will withdraw my motion for tonight.
Okay. May I suggest that I make a motion to table so that it stays alive and we don't have to go through a new motion? And then we'll be forced to discuss it at our next meeting, please and thank you. So I am officially making a motion to table.
All right, is there a second to that? Second. Okay.
No discussion, go to a vote.
Yep. Do we have public comment on tabling? He's there. Come on up.
Absolutely. This is piggyback off the same thing I said on the last one. Now, I appreciate you tabling this, but the very fact that you want to put one person to represent all of us, we don't agree, Armour. We don't agree, Sam. I don't want you speaking for me. I've got 2 children in this district. Unlike these purple people poisons that come in here that don't have kids, I've got kids. Me and my wife's going to fight you ever since way until you do the right thing. Look, take it up. And here's another thing. I would suggest that the board attorney maybe look into how I knew this when another board member said she had no clue about this before I come in there. And the one person that brought it up, does that not sound like another sunshine violation? If somebody's talking out and it's getting to me, as a matter of fact, why don't you give me time to let my private investigator see if they can get the informant to come out and speak, and let's see what's really going on. How do I know it if you're not breaking sunshine? If you're not violating sunshine, where's my information coming from, Armor? I think you need to table it, and you need to think real hard before you put one of these cronies up speaking for us. Thank you. I'm Smoking Joe, and I'm done for the night.
Gwen Gittens. I come tonight, I probably won't be back for a little bit, so anyway. My thought on this, the first thing is you're creating another layer of someone that has to communicate to someone that has to communicate to the rest of you guys. Just another layer of communication. And I hate saying this, but I will. When I was on the board, the purpose of having the liaison in FSBA was that they do have a broad perspective of what's going on, and it was for that person or persons to bring that information back to the group, not for one person just to get to have that information. A suggestion, and it kind of piggybacking on what Ms. Giovanelli said, everybody has different thoughts. So think about the concept that, let's say, for example, your District 5, you have legislators, you have county commissioners, you have all of these people that are also representing District 5. So if each of you had a relationship with your legislators and the people that are also governing the same district you're from, think about it. If you had a school and the sidewalks were bad and you talked to your county commissioner and your legislator, then together as a team, you can get that type of thing done. So think about each of you being a legislative person with your group regarding who you're representing, us, and the needs that we have out in the community. I think it's something you need to really consider, that you're paying someone to do exactly what you're trying to elect someone to do. And then you're going to hire someone else as the legislative person to fill that empty position. Now you're going to have this layer and this layer and this layer and this layer. That's how communication gets all muddled up. So the simplest is the best. Create relationships with your legislators for your districts. Work together with them and bring that information back for all of us. Thank you.
Robert Daniels. Speaking in the vein of concerns, we had the recently aborted elementary school in the South Zone that was only stopped by Mrs. Giddens beating on the drum and demanding accountability for why students needed another school in the South Zone. Well, in the East, District 5, we still had students in portables. That demonstrates that the board is very capable to operate only in the best interest of their own district instead of the district as a whole. However, we also have a number of at-large positions. In the rules of governance or philosophy of governance, there's the tyranny of the majority and the tyranny of the minority. And we want to avoid both of those. You're suggesting one position. I'm going to suggest that you have a paired position. One of the at-large board members go to this committee, be the person, with a rotation of the people from the other 5 districts, so that each district has representation in this. I understand the value of a point person, but by splitting the duty between 2 with 1 on rotation among all 5 of the districts, we ensure there's going to be accountability for that liaison to represent all parts of the district equally. Thank you.
Sharon McGill. Just sitting back there listening, it just sounds like there does need to be more discussion on this. And I'm going to go back to one of my original questions. What was the success of the last legislative session. What were the successes? Where were some of the failures possibly? What could we have done better? Rather than jumping into a whole new position without analyzing what we already did and what we had and how it worked. And maybe it doesn't require a new person and an alternate. Maybe it requires tweaks in how it was done versus who did it. So I think you really need to go back and question that. And that's why tabling it, I think, is a really good idea, and analyzing the pros and cons of what happened this last legislative session. Thank you.
Yes.
I have a couple things. Ms. Patrica had asked what my thoughts were, and I deferred because I actually agreed with everything that the superintendent said. However, based on some of the comments, I would like a little clarification, please. This liaison position, would that forbade or not allow other board members to attend the other legislative sessions that are going on, some of the other trips that you go to Tallahassee, whatever board member wants to attend?
No, absolutely not. Nothing would change there. It's just when the board says we need to ask for, let's say, a waiver on per student costs, station cost or something like that, it would be sent by the whole board at this or that, but the liaison should have more personal connections there. And then it might help, the same thing. It's just another person that maybe they'll listen to. I mean, it's no different than sending the superintendent up there to also talk. He's representing the board when he goes in the district, when he goes up there also. I mean, but he carries a little more clout when he goes up there. Maybe.
Mr. Chair, I think you give me way too much credit. I do believe the elected officials do much better with other electeds. I think it's important for a superintendent to go in support of the board's platform. So I appreciate the comment, though.
But anyway, it would not affect any of those.
And then my last question, Mr. Chairman, what was the vision in terms of getting board directive to be able to answer those questions that may come up, as well as to be able to come back and share the information received by the board? What was the vision for that?
The vision would be the same thing we do when we do our legislative asks. There are also things that come up all the time here that we need from the legislative people, and sometimes it might be just good to have someone that could go to that. It might not be during legislative times, but, and it may not only be the legislature, it could be the county commission or something else like that, all the local officials. And I agree with Ms. Gittens, every district person should know the people in their district also, as much as possible. And I just think it just would to be good. I think we could get more points across if we had someone like that but again, I'm for tabling it. I think we've had discussion, so we should probably go ahead and vote on that. Yes, Mr. Fisher.
Just to point out, I mean, the concept, and I'm good with tabling it to make sure everyone is okay and goes through the information. It's not a whole lot different than how our county commissioners operate. They have a point person they send up there. So, I mean, that's what they did this last session. So, I just wanted to make that point.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Fisher?
Aye.
Ms. Giovanelli?
Yes.
Ms. Patrica?
Yes, please.
Ms. Jordan?
Aye.
Ms. Langford Fleming?
Aye.
Ms. Morgan?
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right. Next on our agenda.
Mr. Chairman, just one more thing. I'm sorry, I have to put on the record. Board members are able to share motions. They are able to share position papers. They are able to share memos in between them, so long as there is not a response or a discussion in those documents that is not a sunshine violation. I just want to make sure that's on the record.
Correct, and this motion was sent out earlier to all the board members without a response from any board members, so just so they were aware of it. For the good of the order here, Mr. Fisher, do you have any?
I'll keep it brief. Real quick, we were able to host recently the first ever Cape Coral Chamber of Commerce junior leadership. They came over here for their education day. It was really a good time. They were able to see what we do over here. They were able to ask some questions, and they had a mock board hearing. So, and I appreciate my fellow board members that showed up, as well as administrators, and thank you for helping facilitate that. They really truly enjoyed that. So I also want to thank, along the lines of what we've been talking about, our governor as well as our legislative delegation for appropriation success. This is from what I've been able to read, one of our most successful legislative sessions as a school district in many, many years. So we're able to accomplish many of the things that we sought out for in the beginning. So besides that, again, my condolences go out to the families of the 5 teens that were in the car accident recently. As I said before, it's unimaginable, and we're keeping you in our thoughts and prayers. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Giovanelli?
I'll be brief as well. Just congratulations to the new promotions and appointments. I really want to welcome the new people as well, and I look forward to that. I also want to thank Linda Mayer and Dr. Denise Carlin for their service to the Lee County students. You will be missed, and congratulations on your retirement. Enjoy. And real quick, just my condolence and thoughts and prayers to the families and friends that these students that we recently lost. And they're not all our students, but graduates as well. It is a tragedy, and to the community. And I just want to know that, I just want the families and friends to know that my heart goes out to them. And it's just a terrible tragedy. So I've been mulling it over for a couple days now, and my heart hurts. So thank you so much. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Patrica?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Jordan?
Actually, I think the two of you have mentioned everything that possibly could be mentioned, and I do want to thank you, Mr. Fisher, for bringing the students here, and I hope to see them here again. That was really a wonderful time, and they had great questions, and thank you both for bringing up the students and the families. Thank you.
Ms. Langford Fleming?
Yes, there's been a lot of great comments made by some people out in our audience this evening. I do want to just maybe get some clarification, perhaps through the chair to the super. Maybe we can look into the child that Mrs. Perez was discussing. I don't know if she said that she had evidence of something happening at one of our schools with a particular child. I'm hoping that's not the case, but I think it's our duty to check into that. And as well as Mrs. Ware's comments about the parking for the soccer near Franklin Park. Maybe somebody can also check into that facility. Not sure if somebody's been out there from the board to even see that. A lot of discussion this evening. I know it seems like it was a long time ago about the books and the policy that we are reviewing. That is something that I think all of us are spending lots of time on. It is not, I don't want you to think that you come and speak and then we move on, and it's not something that we don't revisit, because we do. I remember being a teacher in the 5th grade, and a popular book came out for teens, and that particular book became a movie, and it was a teen book. However, the reading level for that book was a 4.0, which is an AR. That's a 4th grader in the first month of school. I would not have wanted my 4th grader to read the content of that book. Just because it's on grade level doesn't necessarily mean that it should be in a classroom in a 5th grade library with the content that it was had. So I kind of wanted to bring that example up. I do think it's important we read the books that are being challenged, but I think for me personally, I have 3 children, and I envision their face and their age at that moment. Would I want them to be reading that particular book at this time in their life? I just wanted to use that example. I know that it's been mentioned today. There are 2 families that were affected that I personally know with the children that had the accident this week, and with me having a new driver in my household, it's also just very close to my heart. That life is very precious, and I just would like to put out there that at some point in time, maybe we, even at the next board meeting, grant a moment of silence in memory of those children and their families, and my heart breaks for them. And at the end of the day, I think that's what's most important, is life is very precious, and we need to remember that at all times. So thank you. That's all I have for tonight.
Ms. Morgan?
I really have no comments, although I do want to thank the superintendent for his comments regarding the students and former students this afternoon, particularly with respect to principals making themselves available over the summer. This kind of tragedy is much more difficult to for everybody to find the connections they need to help people move through the grief process and whatever. So I do thank you for your comments. It is heartbreaking what has taken place, and I do grieve for the families of the children involved. Those are my comments this evening. Thank you.
I had the pleasure of attending several, I think, sort of momentous occasions since the last meeting. First was the groundbreaking at Fort Myers High School for their new synthetic turf field. They're having to dig down 8 feet, that whole area out. That's huge. But that's $1 million project that was not paid for by the district. It was all donations. We are putting in a new track around there, though, at the district's expense, because it seems silly to not to do that at that particular time. It'd be much more costly to do it later. Then a few days later, I went to the demolition at the Fort Myers Beach Elementary School, and that was very enlightening to see that. Then a few days later, went to the groundbreaking of the $79 million renovation at Riverdale, and new construction of a new science wing and gymnasium and lots of classrooms. So finally when it's all done, be getting rid of their portables. It's been a lot of talk over the years. And then I got to go to the Collegian, I think that's which is all the top teachers out, had a week-long interfacing with each other and learning from each other, and then an induction of the Golden Apple teachers into the Golden Apple Academy. That was also a very great event to have gone to. So all those things happened, plus all the other stuff. So it was a busy week. That's all I have tonight. Mrs. Dupay-Bruno, you have any more to add?
Just very, very quickly, since he's been here all night, board members, Tim Carver, if you could stand up. He is one of our law clerks from Ave Maria Law School, second-year law student. And we also have Carolyn Terrell, who is also another second-year law student at Ave Maria, who's clerking for us this summer. She's doing more virtual. Tim is coming in every day. Thank you.
Welcome. Dr. Bernier?
Just a couple of things, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you to Michael Ramirez. It appears last week was a bad week to be out of town. So I appreciate Michael filling in for me during the workshop and doing an amazing job. Had a great opportunity to watch it. We'll watch it again to ensure that I'm up to speed on all of your comments considering the topics you were discussing. I don't want to just give a shout out to our professional development department, our legal team, and members of this staff who put on for the very first time on June 14th and 15th our Law and Leadership series. Not only did we have all of our principals, APs, trustees and athletic directors to talk about instruction and to focus on student achievement, but athletic directors were given a whole day of development with the district athletic director, and then we followed up the following day with basically Legal 101 training. We covered everything from payments, legal contracts, hiring practice, student code of conduct, how to conduct an investigation, how to work with professional practices, when to call. And I'm going to lose a little this in translation because you'd have to hear the kickoff speech and the final speech. But when I was, and this is a boating community, the focus of the second day was it's okay to ask for help. When I first became a boat owner, I took out a friend who was a very experienced captain, and he said, very little goes wrong on a boat when you're going slow. So when you see dangerous things, as those principals are navigating waters and they're moving students in large schools forward, they see dangerous objects, they see currents that they don't understand. It is okay to slow the boat down, make a phone call, get somebody else on board so we can be thought partners together moving forward. The training was extremely well received. I can't thank the legal team enough. I can't thank all the other individual people. And one of the highlights, just to make the newsreels, was Suzette and Heather from HR presenting on that hiring's a lot like speed dating. You have to see a lot of people before you pick your person. And they great experience. And one of the most amazing things, and I wish Rob was still in the room, was HR talking to all the principals and saying, look, we know we've got to do better. That sense of bringing the community together, and then that opportunity for us to begin to kick off Speak Up, Listen Up, was just a great opportunity. I will also echo the sentiments, and I'll only say this to the community as people were directly impacted and know the families impacted by the tragedy of the accident. We have a more difficult time during the summer because we don't get our eyes on our students every day like when they come to school. So if you know of students that are struggling, if you know of family members or other people who need help and support, there are supports within the district. You may call here, you may ask to talk to student services. You can certainly call into my office. I'll get our chief of staff and myself on it. But our principals are also a good line of approach. They are working this summer, and they're going to need help. So the other eyes in the community, the other sets of parents, the other sets of students, if you see someone struggling with this, it's a responsibility to come forward so we can get them the help that they so richly deserve. I am at a loss for words. We grieve for these parents and families, and I don't think there's anything we can say other than that we're thinking about them and praying on their behalf. Finally, when I was on my return flight from the West Coast, I landed to as always happens when you land, you turn your phone back on, and I received several pieces of information regarding a business that operates in the metro corridor that the EPA has been working with regarding the release of a particular chemical into the air that is utilized for cleaning medical instruments. This really has nothing to do with the school district of Lee County, but at the same time, it has everything to do with it. We have children living in that area, we have families living in that area, and we do have a school in that area as well. I've shared with all the board members, we don't have summer programming going on there right now. The little private school is keeping kids indoors right now until we can get some more information. I will tell the community, if you're still tuned in, there's a community town hall tomorrow night at 5:45 p.m. at the Word of Life Church on South Point Boulevard. It's being hosted by our Congressman Byron Donalds. It was a planned community town hall, but some of the topics will certainly revolve around this issue, and I believe Mr. Persons, who's gone to all the wonderful things, will be in attendance, and so will I. Again, that's a community town hall, Wednesday night, Word of Life Church on South Point Boulevard, and should begin at 5:45 p.m. That being said, we also know that tomorrow is going to be a busy day in Fort Myers with a protest march. Our schools that are on the path of that march have been notified. Police presence will be in addition to what normally would be present in that area, and the Sheriff's Department and other municipalities have assured us they will work to ensure our school buildings are safe and that parents can successfully navigate to and from school. My understanding of the protest is around immigration laws, and they're expecting up to 20,000 people. So we'll see what materializes, but I want you to know we're working in advance to help our parents and students who are attending summer programs to be able to continue to do that. But we will work through some issues tomorrow, depending on how many people actually turn out. So thank you very much for your time and for the hard work this evening.
Thank you. On Wednesday, July 26th, there will be a board workshop at 12 p.m. And on Tuesday, July 31st, there'll be a special board meeting at 5:05 p.m., followed by a board action meeting at 6 p.m. At this point, seeing no other business come before this body and seeing no objection, this meeting is adjourned. The time is 9:38 p.m.